Out of the gates and ready to go. OutKick 360 is underway. Wednesday edition. That means Primary Complaint is coming up in about 45 minutes as we broadcast live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. 20 minutes from right now, Bobby Carpenter will join us, SiriusXM and OutKick college football analyst. Looking forward to chatting there about the last weekend. We'll look ahead to some of the matchups for the upcoming week 2 of college football. And later in today's show, Brent Hubbs from VolQuest.com will help us preview one of the better games of the weekend. Tennessee on the road at Pitt in a top 25 matchup. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Ready for a big show today. Always fun catching up with Bobby. I feel like every time we talk to Bobby now, he's got some big event going on. Kenny Chesney concert, the 20th anniversary of the 2002 National Championship team this past weekend. There's always something big going on in Bobby's life.
Boys, it was just 2020, I think, when I was telling you about how Chelsea Football Club had brought me back to a place of joy in sports where I had discovered how your team winning felt again. And just 2 years later, manager sacked. He's out. And they're not terrible.
This is like the Ed Ogeron of Premier League soccer is what you're saying, 2 years after a championship.
If you're one of the top clubs and you lose your course, you lose it pretty fast. And they got bought. You know, Abramovich, the Russian oligarch, was basically kicked out. They got bought by a co-owner of the Dodgers. And it basically sounds like they were giving him 100 days to kind of let things sort out. They're not playing particularly well. They just lost their first Champions League match, which was bad. But while they were sorting him out and giving him this 100-day audition, they were letting him bring in players. So they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on 5+ guys who are his guys. So now the next guy's going to come in and go through the same thing. Well, these aren't my guys. This guy doesn't fit what I want to do, all of that stuff. And so
sounds like they were waffling. They were letting him do all this, not knowing if they were going to pull the plug.
And what I read...
Does the new owner have a ton of money like the Russian guy?
Nobody has as much money as the Russian guy.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of money,
enough.
and he's willing to spend.
Does he have 7 yachts like the Russian guy?
No. But the thing is...
Can a Russian guy buy my favorite sports team also? I kind of want that.
And I respect what Tuchel did, and he's a phenomenal coach. But, like, one of the reasons he's out is because they wanted a coach who would kind of schmooze and coddle with them. So they came to him and they said, Cristiano Ronaldo is available. Should we look into this? And he said, no. And he thought that should be the end of it. Well, they wanted a big conversation and a sit-down meeting to discuss all of that. And in his mind, he said no. And if you're wanting me to be kind of direct the personnel here, that was enough of a conversation for me. Let's move on to the next guy. So... T took this really hard.
She's all in.
All in, and she, I mean, we both love them, but she doesn't understand that these guys come and go pretty quickly over there. And
the attachment is real.
Yeah. So it's a little rough.
Is this guy going to immediately get another job?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know he's phenomenal. I mean, he's one of the, what do you think, Colin? He's in the top 10 coaches in the world. So I don't know what's open right now.
We're going to call it for all of our soccer analysis.
He's got a lot of money sitting, waiting for him, too, so he could just wait until next season when stuff opens if he wants.
Now that we're on a soccer tangent, I'll continue to tell you guys, watch Welcome to Wrexham on FX and Hulu. You can watch it where Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhaney from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia buy a Welsh soccer club. It's really, really good. And the two stars aren't the best part of it. Yeah. It's the townspeople that they interview and getting into with these stories. It's terrific.
So this guy may have had too short of leash. And meanwhile, Cashman and Boone, I'm reading stuff about how, they finally, if they blow this, might be
It might happen.
Might happen for Cashman. Cashman, who's been in charge for a quarter century.
Yeah, it's crazy watching the Derek Jeter documentary. Like, you just realize how Brian Cashman was a part of all of this. You know, the whole he was there during the dynasty years, and it's crazy how long he's been with the organization.
Doesn't win the World Series, which it's not going to do. It's time for change there. I mean, he made all these moves. He put this team together, which played over its head for a long time, but is inherently flawed. And he hired Boone, who isn't getting it done. So I mourn Tuchel to a degree. I will not mourn Cashman and Boone.
Do you think it's going to be complete Band-Aid ripped off with Cashman Boone same time? If it happens, it's not going to be one or the other?
I don't know if the Steinbrenner kid has the stones.
How old is the Steinbrenner kid?
60-something, probably.
This young whippersnapper, this kid.
Don't you have somebody like that, though? You always think of him as the kid.
Oh, yeah, the Steinbrenner boy. Yeah.
Don't you get it, though? You think of George Steinbrenner's kid. You
Griffey's always
going
to
to
be the kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And also, if you have a Y at the end of your name, like if you're Tommy, like I feel like you're always a kid.
Well, that's
right?
a great way
Timmy.
Yeah.
Now, I was
just
sure
always
that it
feel
was
like I'm talking to a 7-year-old boy.
I was sure it was Hal who was alive, and then you confused me last time we talked of him. But I'm pretty sure it's Hal.
Yeah,
Hank died.
I screwed it up. I think Hank's the one who's dead.
Yeah.
We probably just killed the one who's
I don't
alive.
know who's next in the wings, but and I'm not praying for anyone's death by any means, but I'm ready for them to turn it over to the next generation.
You need a succession plan?
Yeah.
Sound like an Auburn fan thinking about Bama football.
It's like House of the Dragon with a succession plan over here.
Let's just turn it over to Timmy or Tommy or Frankie.
So speaking of coaches and firings, nothing happening in that drastic of a measure at LSU, but it's a little early to be snapping back at head coaches over a loss. Brian Kelly, when you see the headline that Brian Kelly was complaining about the media arriving late to his press conference, you think that he's coming over the top and being harsh about it. Here's Brian Kelly and the response from a reporter about the result of the game this past week, this past Sunday against Florida State.
With that, we'll open it up to this late arriving media crowd that must have enjoyed the weekend. That's usually $10 that we put in the kitty for. We'll have a big bash at the end of the year at my place.
So maybe if you win, I'll be on time.
I don't think it has anything to do with winning. I think it has to do with being on time.
What if you win? We'll be on time.
I mean,
he was pretty good-natured with what he was open up with.
He's actually
being
been pretty good
lighthearted.
behind the mic recently.
that was a tough moment to go after the coach with that line. I'd understand if he came in a very Saban-like fashion
Right.
and started lecturing the media on being on time.
He's inviting him to his house.
And he was acting, then someone might snap back and say, how about you win a game first?
Yeah.
And then you can tell us what to do.
So I immediately think of
But he was joking around. He's like, we'll have a big party at the end of the year.
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't judge this way, but my head immediately goes to that would never happen to Jimbo Fisher in College Station. And I think the difference is everyone in Baton Rouge loves Orgeron, right? And you've got Brian Kelly coming in, and he's expected to win and win now. And there will be I think there's a different vibe with his hire than there was with Jimbo.
I agree, but
right or wrong?
LSU fan friend tells us last night that he was joking around with this reporter afterwards, and it was all taken lightheartedly ultimately. Now, it doesn't sound
Maybe
good
so,
for
yeah.
people like us to break it down because it takes a bad turn south there.
Yeah, maybe we're
Her
maybe
tone
I'm
was
reading too
her
much
tone
into it,
was
but
terrible.
Yeah, her tone was
Her
bad.
tone could have been fine too. Like she could have said it jokingly and maintained the tone. Tone turned bad quick.
But so let's look at the tone of the program. The season can go south fairly soon for LSU with their schedule. Because we previewed the over/under 7.5. Tennessee and Florida State were the two teams that I had circled as the pivot points for how they go above and exceed expectations. And they're 0 for 1 in those, and they're in the SEC West. It could be a fairly ugly year one for him.
Who's next?
Yeah, I'm watching that team on Sunday night, and they just didn't look very good. I mean, their offensive line, they have huge issues on their offensive line. I watch that. I watch them in Florida and think from Tennessee's perspective, for example, boy, one game looks a lot tougher now than I expected. Another one looks a lot easier when they go to LSU, for Tennessee. I'm sure a lot of people in the SEC are watching that LSU team and starting to think, hey, that might be a win for us this year.
So they have Mississippi State and Auburn 2 of the next 4 games before they play Tennessee. Then they visit Florida. Now, in between that, they've got Southern and New Mexico. So they'll get back to their winning ways under the lights this coming weekend. But, Chad, I know it was very lighthearted, but I'm thinking, man, this is that's something you may hear in October or November, not week 1
Well, it's also
First loss.
I wouldn't. What doesn't happen often? It's a story because it doesn't happen often anywhere, but especially like in a Southern college football environment where coaches are treated like royalty. You would never see this. The reporter's name is Leah Van, and she tweeted the video and said, press conference was at noon. I was running in from a doctor's appointment, got there at 11:57. Brian Kelly called me out and said jokingly I owed him $10. I said if he won, maybe I'd be on time. Not my finest hour. I apologized afterward, and he was super chill and said I still owe him $10 for being late.
That's cool.
So she did say she apologized afterward, and he was fine.
And good by her. Reporters are not the best at saying my bad.
But
about this.
I see the headline and I hear it and I think, man, there's just a different vibe between College Station and Baton Rouge with some high-paid coaches that aren't expected to win championships. I mean, they are, but they're not. I mean, if we're being honest.
And I don't just think College Station.
Alabama and Georgia and everyone else.
I think virtually my perception, and I admittedly have not been on the inside of many of these places. I was at Florida during, who's the guy that replaced Spurrier?
Zook.
Ron Zook.
I was at Florida for a couple days during Ron Zook. And even there, I found it like reverent. It was early Ron Zook. But, I mean, there's a reverence at a lot of these places that's, totally different than my environment.
Oh, it's their school, though. Win or lose, you're in. You're tied to it. So I think people are more lenient because they want to see success and they're willing to wait on it, especially if you're coming out of a successful run like Florida was with Spurrier.
Ball coach's father figure is.
When I say wait on it, I understand. Field. Like everyone's trying to win, and the SEC eats their own. But I do, just comparing the two guys, I do feel like Jimbo Fisher has received a lot of patience. And LSU is a program where they're 2 years ago they're winning a title.
Yeah,
so
clock should be.
And they just fired their guy that won that title.
Jimbo Fisher he's been treated to sort of Scott Frost status in that this is it for A&M. Like they paid him more than anyone else in college football at the time to get the guy who won a national championship at Florida State to come coach them. So it's one of those moves that you're going to be patient because what's next? That's what Nebraska's sitting around thinking. We got our guy. The guy that was bred right here in this state, played in this program for Tom Osborne, and he's the national coach of the year, and he leaves UCF to come here. They're going to give him all the time in the world. They have. They've been very patient so far because...
And both are good coaches.
They're sitting around thinking, what's next? Not that Texas A&M can't go hire a good coach or Nebraska can't, but...
It's a major restart.
You're putting yourself on a big platform for, patience when you go in and make a big move like that.
A great quote from Patrick Mahomes, and then we'll get to Bobby Carpenter. Many of you, I'm sure, are drafting your fantasy football teams. Patrick Mahomes has already apologized to fantasy football fans. Quote, "It's not going to be just Tyreek and Travis Kelce. It's going to come from everywhere. You're going to have to choose the right guy every week." There's Patrick Mahomes on the offense.
I bet Kelsey's a pretty good guy. And I drafted Kelsey Monday night without hesitation. I think the other guys, certainly, it's going to the Hill option is spread out multiple ways. And Kelsey's getting older. I don't think he's going to have the best season of his career by any means. But I still think if they're in a pinch, you were talking yesterday about the eye contact, read each other because you know each other thing. That's not going away.
Well, and he has 20 touchdowns combined over the last 2 seasons. I mean, that's
massive production.
Yes, that's points on the board. Coming up, Bobby Carpenter joins us. We'll recap the biggest games from last weekend and look ahead on the horizon. Alabama, Texas, and much more. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. Why would you stay in a stadium that the Parks Department runs? You don't even run the stadium if you're the Chicago Bear. You don't even run it. You have nothing to do with the stadium. They renovated it. Everybody acts like they renovated Soldier Field 10 minutes ago. It was 2002. They made it look like a spaceship. I don't know about you, but there's been a lot in this world with NFL teams that has been done since 2002. Children, please. 2002 was 20 years ago. 20 years is a lifetime in facilities renovation. Who the hell wants to live in that city, or at least who in the hell wants to own a franchise on the south side of that city?
Jacob deGrom, I've played with two of the greatest ever. Randy Johnson in Arizona. Roger Clemens won back-to-back Cy Young Awards, 96, 97, and 98 when I was with the Blue Jays. I've seen them all. Jacob deGrom, in my opinion, when he's healthy, Dan, is the best pitcher I've seen in person. He's so good, Dan. I watched so many baseball games that 3 years ago I wanted to see for myself. So I went on Vivid Seats, bought a ticket for myself, sat 2 rows behind home plate because I wanted to see, because I know what Clemens looks like. I've seen Saberhagen throw. I've seen them all. Dan, he is the best pitcher I have ever seen. I have never seen a guy that throws 98 to 100 with less effort than he does. It is smooth. It's under control. He has a nasty slider that comes out of what makes him so good, Dan. Everything comes out of this plane here, and one goes straight and the other breaks down, and you have a split second to decide which one.
Join me 9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy, and if you missed my last show, you may be experiencing some FOMO, so this is what you missed.
They get the mullet, but they're not living the lifestyle. They'll come. I'll see them come join the group, and I'm an admin in the big mullet group on Facebook, the mullet that changed my life, and they'll come in there, and they're just bully people, and that's not something that we stand for. So we get rid of them as soon as they come in, usually.
I would be willing to bet at least 50% of them work at the Frothy Monkey in Nashville, Tennessee, because I've seen a lot of liberal mullets there, and you're exactly right. It is not the mullet lifestyle. It's just a weird haircut with a lot of different colors, and females with unshaved legs, armpits, that kind of thing. That's not the mullet lifestyle. The mullet lifestyle is clean. It's America first. We love our country. We love God. We love Tennessee, all those things. It was the last week of August, and the losers were out in full force. So let's get started with loser number 1, Lizzo. Not only did she dress like a literal trash bag on the VMA red carpet, but after winning an award under the category Video for Good, she delivered an expletive-ridden acceptance speech proving you can take the girl out of the trash bag, but you can't take the trash bag out of the girl.
To the bitches that got something to say about me in the press, gonna say nothing. They be like, Lizzo, why don't you clap back? Why don't you clap back? Because, bitch, I'm winning, ho. Big bitch is winning, ho! That's what bitches show people, bitch! So,
Nothing exemplifies a Video for Good victor quite like calling people bitches and hoes, am I right? I've got more hot takes every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and I'll have some final thoughts at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on OutKick.com.
OutKick 360 rolls on from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Happy Wednesday to you. Coming up, primary complaint right now. Bobby Carpenter joins us at BCarp3 is where you can find him. Also on SiriusXM. And the new time slot for him right here because of the SiriusXM show where he and Jacob Hester have been doing a fabulous job talking college football and more. Bobby, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. I mean, it feels good to finally have a full weekend, a buffet, if you will, of college football in the books. I mean, you think start out Thursday, finally finished up Monday night. You get a couple night breather, and then tomorrow night we'll be kicking off the NFL season, so it'll be coming at you fast and furious.
Bobby, what a fun time to host a show with an LSU Tiger and Jacob Hester. Man, it's got to be a rough start to his season right now. Now you got Brian Kelly getting called out by reporters in the press conference.
Yeah, Jacob's a good guy. I've known him for a while, so we've been working together a little bit, and he's a good sport about it. And I mean, my goodness, it was a tough one, obviously, to lose that. I looked at it the positive way. It's like, Hester, man, you guys got 2 kicks blocked, muffed 2 punts, and you had a chance to win the game, on the final drive. So watching that game, I'm like, I was impressed with how many athletes you had out there, what the team actually looked like. I feel like all those mistakes were ultimately correctable. Now it goes back to coaching and discipline, but it didn't seem like they were as far away as I would have thought. And I think Florida State might be a little bit better than people are giving them credit for. But as I said, I'm like, the goal this year was probably to win 7, 8, 9 games would be fantastic. I still think LSU probably wins 7 to 8 games. And if next year Brian Kelly's winning 10 games, maybe 11, and challenging in the West, all this stuff will be in the rearview mirror.
Were you at all nervous during the first half of Notre Dame, Ohio State? And what did you think overall? Let's start with Notre Dame and what Notre Dame was able to do.
Well, I was impressed with Notre Dame's game plan. And, I played with Marcus Freeman. He's played under Jim Tressel, coached with Luke Fickell. And I think he looked at his team. They were decimated at wide receiver. They're starting a first-year starter at quarterback. They had a pretty good offensive line. The strength of their team is probably their tight end room. And they've got a really solid defense. So I think his thing was, hey, let's lean into this as much as possible. Let's limit the plays. I think Ohio State's defense had about 55 snaps. I mean, they wanted to short that game as much as possible and to make sure that Ohio State didn't have a lot of opportunities to take a lot of shots at their defense and try to wear them down and grind them and make sure that it was shorter, because in a game where you usually are at a talent disadvantage, the longer the game goes, the more plays it goes, talent usually wins out. So I thought they did a great job. I mean, they took advantage of most of the opportunities that they had. They bottled up Ohio State's receivers. Obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba getting hurt a little bit at the beginning helped. They had Julian Fleming, who's one of their other starters, was out. And so they kind of forced them to be patient. And then Ryan Day on the flip side kind of understood what was going on, understood what type of game it was. And this is really critical. Everybody loves to go out there, and win games, 45-10. That's awesome. And to be able to do that. But the problem is there's times where despite all your best laid plans, you're not going to be able to do that. And that was one thing that during Urban Meyer's tenure at Ohio State, they had some inexplicable losses to Purdue, to Iowa. And it seemed like some of these games they would get down and then there was like a 21-point play that you're searching for. Whereas Ryan, I think, looked at it and said, okay, we're kind of beat up at receiver. This game is going to be a little rougher. Let's figure out what type of game it is. Let's play the field position battle. We don't have to go for it on every 4th down. Our special teams are playing well. Our defense is playing great, and we've been able to run the ball. And honestly, Paul, that's why I would say I wasn't nervous. I wanted to get everybody excited. I wanted the crowd to be electric. You want an awesome environment after everything that had started out. Heck, it was like the stinking Super Bowl. They had flyovers. You got LeBron James, Jason Tatum, Andre Iguodala, Joe Burrow's on the sideline. 27 former players that are currently in the NFL. I mean, recruits galore, fireworks, paratroopers. I mean, it had everything that you wanted. And so you want to have that big experience. But the fact that the defense was playing that well, I knew Ryan would get the offense going. Like, that's not going to be an issue. Like, CJ was inaccurate by his standards. I think he still completed 70% of his balls. It wasn't a bad night. He threw 2 great ones out of the pocket, 2 of the best balls I've seen when you're scrambling, especially throwing against your body, on 3rd down. But the offense will come. It'll be there. I was really much more impressed with the defense because coming into this season, gentlemen, I think everybody knew that was the question. They're going to be able to score points, but do they have a defense that can come along for the ride? And it was nice. Ryan kind of smiled after the game to be able to win a game with defense and with special teams and just have an offense that's just as efficient. And watching that game in stadium, I was down the sideline a little bit. Like you could see at the end, Notre Dame's defense was starting to crack. If they would have caught that punt cleanly at the 50, they probably would have went in and scored and probably covered the 17-point margin. It's 28-10. It may not be the prettiest 28-10 in the world, and it wasn't what people would have expected, but they were still have been able to get it done. So they were starting to split. They kind of leaned into it. And I love the fact that they won an ugly game, because there will be times where you're going to need to be tested, and you're going to need to have that experience of winning close games, winning ugly games. And no coach likes to go through it, but they ultimately all love that they have gone through it.
Bobby Carpenter with us on OutKick 360. Everyone's being overly critical of the Georgia defense in week one because we wanted to see them replace all of that NFL talent. What did you see from Georgia's defense as in terms of comparing them to last year?
Well, I mean, it's tough. I mean, they dominated, absolutely. And I mean, Oregon moved the ball a little bit here and there, but they made the plays when they needed to. They're great up front. I mean, they're a pretty looking team. And getting off the bus, they've got some pretty looking guys. They're big, they're physical, they check all of the boxes. So when you see that, you're like, all right, I mean, that's a pretty good spot to be in. I mean, I was really impressed with Stetson Bennett. You look at his stat line. I mean, he looked like a Heisman Trophy quarterback. Heck, there was plays, I watched, I was down at tailgates. I'm trying to watch. I went back and rewatched some of it. I mean, he looked like Roger Staubach spinning around back there in the backfield, breaking guys down and making them miss. So I was really impressed with how well they played. I think Georgia's really good. I don't think Oregon is as good as what we probably anticipated. Now, maybe that changes as everything moves along. But I was really surprised to have Dan Lanning there, who was at Georgia, who understood Stetson Bennett, who understood those players pretty well. And for him to go in there and have a game like that, and albeit it was essentially a road game, but it was kind of surprising to see that. And that's why I think Georgia jumped to number 2 in the polls after an extremely dominant performance.
And Stetson Bennett was great. But, Bobby, if I had to pick a superstar coming out of the weekend, just one individual, it's Anthony Richardson at Florida with what he was able to do against a really good Utah defense. What did you make of his performance? What did you think of Florida upsetting Utah?
I was surprised by that. I mean, I think it wouldn't have surprised me. I thought Florida or Utah would win that game. I was surprised with how well Florida played. I was surprised with how tough they were. And you said Anthony Richardson. I mean, he was the difference. I mean, he's the elixir that's stirring it. Florida's always had some pretty good athletes. What they've struggled with, is the ability to get that quarterback position right consistently. They've had years where it's been better than others, but they haven't had that guy in a while. And it looks like Richardson could be that guy. And if he is, well, that changes the math on it. And that's why Florida went from unranked, I believe, to 12th in the AP or the coaches. They're right there now. And I'm excited for this game coming up with UK because I know Mark Stoops is going to make sure he gives them a full day's work. It would be an opportunity for Kentucky to beat them 3 out of the last 5 years, beating them on the road and maybe solidifying their place as the second best team in the East. So I think Florida surprised a lot of people. I think Utah kind of blew it a little bit. They should have probably been able to win that game. Couldn't come away with it. But give all the credit in the world to Florida and what they're able to do. I mean, they're right there in a really quick rebuild, looking like they could be back challenging a little bit. And maybe not challenging Georgia, but right there for that 3rd or 4th best team in the SEC.
How great was that Appalachian State game with North Carolina? And now, I mean, I can't wait to watch the game at A&M this weekend because of that.
Well, I sat here and I rewatched that game and I rewatched the ECU NC State game. And if I'm either one of those schools, if I'm any school in the North Carolina or South Carolina region, because I believe South Carolina went to ECU last year, I think, or the year before and got
Sounds
beat.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not the 2-for-1 deals. I mean, it's great, and I'd love to see the small schools host. But if you're the head coach at either one of those programs, at the Power 5 level, I mean that is a hornet's nest you're walking into. It's a no-win situation.
You also had Virginia Tech go to Old Dominion, Bobby, and lose
lost
and get robbed.
They lost.
They went back to the locker room and that someone robbed them.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible. That's literally the insult to injury at the end of the game after losing. So, both of those games, NC State should have gotten beat. There was 2 field goal, extra point was missed. The field goal was missed that would have tied it or won it on either account. And, it's a very similar situation. I mean, like, granted, they scored 40 points in the fourth quarter for App State, but I mean, they had a shot right there to be able to get it done. And I don't know if that's, just rivalries or what it is, but that's the thing that makes college football great. And so as we have all this realignment and everything's happening, that's the stuff that I don't want to lose, because that to me is what makes the sport so great. Is you have these regional rivalries where people are hyped up, guys have played against each other. There's one side of the guys that feel like they were slighted because they were never offered by the bigger schools. And then the bigger, more talented guys are there, and they probably go in a little bit feeling like, we've got this, we're playing directional school U. And then you have games that are like that end up being phenomenal television.
Alabama and Texas, where Sarkisian earlier this week is like, hey, win or lose, it's not going to affect us in competing for the Big 12, and win or lose, it's not going to affect Alabama playing for the SEC title. But yeah, we're excited to play this game. Does he see what happened to Utah State and think, maybe I'd need to go ahead and start downplaying this big L that's headed our way?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it is, Hud. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he realizes what he's getting into. He's looked at his team. He understands what he has, and he was at Alabama. So he knows exactly what they're going to be rolling in with. He put on the film. And the problem is, if he builds this up so big to his guys and they get smoked, I mean, it can be debilitating, and it can be something that'll carry over with you into some of your conference games, into other non-conference games. And all of a sudden you may have a team that's capable of winning 8 or 9 games, and you win 6 or 7 because you can't get out of that rut and you can't get out of that funk because you put so much emotional energy into it. And in reality, thinking you could win, but reality knowing you probably couldn't. And then you go out there and just get blasted at home. So I think he's tempering the expectations, trying to manage them a little bit. And maybe they have something for him. If they can keep this game into the third quarter, I would say it's a win for Sark at this point. But if it's 28-0 heading into halftime or 28-7, I mean, that's a little bit different story.
So you got 3 games this weekend featuring teams in the top 25 going head to head. One of them, as of yesterday, is Tennessee at number 24 in the AP poll, going to Pittsburgh this weekend. Bobby, Pat Narduzzi said, oh, yeah, the big league's coming in here, and we're the Pee Wee League, so I guess we'll see if we can play with them or not on this weekend. He is a motivational guy. Had them ready a year ago. They got a big win in Knoxville. Tennessee's talking a lot about payback, feeling like they let one slip away a year ago. What do you think of the matchup between these two teams?
I love it. I mean, I'm glad Tennessee got ranked in this, and rightfully so. They've looked good. Heupel's got them playing really well. I mean, they're going to be able to score some points. Pat Narduzzi's got a pretty decent squad though too, especially after coming back in the way that they won in the backyard brawl. So the one thing is about Pitt, they've been tested. I mean, they played a tough game where they had to come back against a rival who you hadn't played in a long time. A lot of emotion surrounding it. So he probably feels pretty good. So for him to downplay it is smart, I mean, yeah, we're the ACC. Nobody wants us. Nobody cares about us. A little bit of the Lou Holtz, woe is us. We're just hoping, to keep this thing competitive. We're the JV squad. I absolutely love that by Pat Narduzzi. But don't think on the other end, and we heard Mark Stoops firing back at Cal. Like, guys from Youngstown, Ohio are incredibly proud human beings. And don't think that privately in the locker room, he's not saying that we're just every bit as good as they are, and they're coming in here and we're going to kick the crap out of them, and that's on us. We're going to take care of that. It wasn't a fluke before. We can beat them again. So it's the dual message that coaches send out, where publicly they like to sit there and just, laud their opponent and tell them how great they are, and rightfully so. They're in this great conference. Look at all the money they're making, the TV deals. We're just trying to survive up here at Pittsburgh and sharing a stadium and everything else. But deep down inside, I think he really wants this one. And if they win this game, you would have to argue that they've got the two best non-conference wins after 2 weeks by far.
What do you expect to unfold in that game?
I think it's going to be a close game. Pat Narduzzi, they don't usually get blown out, and especially recently. They're going to play good defense. It'll probably be a little more higher scoring than he likes. But I anticipated looking a little bit like that Pitt West Virginia game. Some high scoring, some back and forth, probably a game that's going to exist in the 30s. I like Tennessee a little bit more in this game. I like what Heupel's done, but I was really impressed with what they've done up at Pitt, and being able to bounce back after losing Pickett. Slovis stepping in there playing really well. Like, they've got a pretty good situation to where you think that they're going to be able to have some success. So I like what they're doing at Pitt, but I would give Tennessee the slight edge. I haven't looked at the line, but I'm guessing it's probably Tennessee by somewhere between 3 to 7 points.
Yeah, it opened at 3.5, and I think it's now 7. So the line has moved in Tennessee's favor, but Tennessee, I think, right around a touchdown now favorite.
Bobby, go ahead. Sorry.
That's perfect. It's playing right into Pat Narduzzi's narrative. So he's going to love that all the way.
Yeah.
How surprising was it? It was for me to see Cincinnati play Arkansas the way they did, given the fact that Ritter's in the NFL, their running backs in the NFL, Sauce Gardner is in the NFL. I mean, they lost a lot of not just talent, but elite talent that the NFL viewed as elite based on where they were selected. And to reload and go on the road in Fayetteville and fight the way they did in that game, how surprised were you to see it?
I was hoping that would be the case. And, he was around a 6.5, 7-point line, and it held true. Cincinnati had a chance to win. Arkansas ultimately won it. Like both teams, it was a little bit sloppy at times, had some turnovers, had some penalties. But that was what I was hoping, that Cincinnati wouldn't get there and get, run. I would like to have seen him win. Luke Fickell is a former coach of mine, and I wanted to see him have some success. But I think that speaks to the testament, because we look at these Power 5 or Group of 5 programs, and it's one thing to kind of make a run where you have your quarterback, you get a transfer running back in Jerome Ford. You've got a couple of corners that were under recruited. You develop, and everything kind of hits for you at the right time, and you're able to make that push. It's another thing in the subsequent year to just kind of reload the same way that a lot of the Power 5 schools do. I think that's what Cincinnati's proven. They had 9 players drafted, gentlemen. That was second most to anyone outside of Georgia. You're talking about a guy that went in the 4th round, quarterback that's going in the middle rounds. I mean, they had guys that were drafted high, like you said, Hutton. I think that speaks to what Luke Fickell has done. I doubt they'll lose another game the rest of this year. And while they're probably not college football playoff worthy this year, I think Arkansas is probably going to be hovering somewhere, probably somewhere between 10 and 15 most of the season. And I would argue that Cincinnati probably should be right there behind them based upon what we saw them going in there in a road environment, new quarterback, and albeit, he transferred back in from Eastern Michigan, but a guy who hadn't played for them and at all. And so there was a lot of things working against them, and Luke Fickell took his crew in there. I would say that, the Big 12, I mean, I know they're losing 2 really good programs in Texas and Oklahoma, but Cincinnati, I think, has been looked at probably as maybe the most underrated program in the country based upon what they've done the last 2 years. And if they're able to kind of solidify that this season by winning 10 or 11 games again, maybe play at a nice bowl game and finally get a big victory there. Like, you'd have to say, like, Luke Fickell has this thing churning to where they're in a good spot, and they're not going to be a once every 3 or 4 year team. That they might be a team that can compete on a year in and year out basis with really quality programs.
How was your 20-year national championship reunion, and was a 3-day weekend enough for recovery, or you petitioning the federal government for a 4-day weekend?
Yeah, it was rough. I'm going to be honest with you. Sunday was tough.
Man, you've had a tough month.
Sunday was tough.
Here it is. I mean, after you guys, I talked to you on Friday. I mean, I went down. We met Friday night. I had a goal of being in bed by 11:30.
Yeah.
That did not happen.
What
I
was
in bed by
bedtime?
1:30.
1:30.
Yeah. I mean, I was 1:30, 1:15. Overserved myself. Had to wake up, do XM from 7 to 9. Coach my son's practice from 9 to 10:30. I mean, I was all but spent at that point, and then it's time to shower up, get down there for brunch at 11:30, 11:45. I mean, guys, the game's at 7:45. So, I mean, I did my best hanging out, not having a drink till probably about 2:30. But at that point, everyone's down there. The tailgates are going, and it was awesome. And the way they did it. I mean, I've been to a lot of college football games. I've been to a ton of Ohio State games, played a fair share of NFL games. Never in a Super Bowl, and I've never been to one. But like walking into that environment I didn't even know there was the flyover and the paratrooper. Like I said, LeBron James, these NBA stars. There was people packed all over the sideline. It was as good of environment, as I had seen and I'd been a part of. And they did a great job with the way they recognized everybody. And it's just really good. I haven't seen some of those guys since our, last reunion 10 years ago. And it just felt really good to kind of be around them. And it's the only chance you really get to feel really young, and it did that for me.
That's an awesome description.
You were probably on air, Bobby, but I was watching College Game Day, and Tressel and Maurice Claret and a few other guys were on College Game Day in a segment there live at the TV setup being interviewed. And I'm thinking, Bobby should be out there with these guys. But then I thought, oh, you're probably on air on Sirius at that point.
You know, I saw that they were auctioning off, this piece of art that they're going to start, raising money for an endowment and a bunch of different things for our class. But yeah, Tress is unbelievable as always with his ability to speak and orate. So he was tremendous. But yeah, it was pretty good. They had Maurice down there, and it was good to have him back, especially after everything that he had kind of gone through. Came back 10 years ago. He lives in Columbus, but doesn't really come around the program much. And to have him down there around everything and to see the reception he got, it was pretty cool too.
Does everyone there think Bronny James is going to play there?
Chris Holtman was down the street from me, and I was kind of talking to him about this, and before the game, and it's tough to kind of tell where anyone's going. He's and they're not allowed to comment on guys who aren't signed, just the same way in football. But I think they feel pretty good, about chances. If he wants to stay on the West Coast, it's a geography play. Like, okay, well, you can't compete with that. But going anywhere else, I think there is a feeling that, you might be able to get him. And there's a guy in the class of 2023 who just decommitted. So I don't know if that's going to play into it at all or how that's ultimately going to work. But it seems like that may, I don't know if that might be a precursor to something happening. I have no idea.
He was there, though, right?
The timing is interesting, is what you're saying.
It is.
Yeah.
He was there. They were both there. They had the Instagram pictures. They did the whole deal. When you get recruited, you come in, put the jerseys on. Yeah. So I don't know if he's coming or not, but I feel as good as anybody about the chances of him, if he leaves the West Coast, to potentially come here, which would be a pretty cool thing for him to come back to Ohio. When you've got 40,000 people in the student saying come home Bronny. I mean, that's a pretty tough thing, I think, to kind of overcome and to look past. And not that that's the be all end all, but I can't even imagine the circus that would be in Columbus if he decided to come here.
The final 30 seconds, the game that you're not going to miss, or the advice you would give everyone watching and listening not to miss this weekend would be which game?
Oh, goodness. That's a good one. I mean, is Florida, Kentucky? Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I mean, because I'm going to be honest, I know there's a lot of good one. Texas, I'm not big into the Texas Bama game. I don't think it's going to be that close. You have a program in Kentucky that is there, and a program in Florida who's always been there, but has kind of not been the last handful of years. And I think this is kind of a bigger game than people thought. After the way Florida played against Utah, to me, this is going to be very interesting. And I know Mark Stoops is going to have them ready to play. I'm excited to see what this thing looks like down in the swamp.
Always appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we will recap this coming weekend with you next Wednesday.
Sounds good, gentlemen. Thanks.
You. All right, there's Bobby Carpenter at bcarp3 is where you can find him on social media. You'll find us complaining when we come back because every Wednesday it's primary complaints.
That's what we do.
That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look.
The new attention on the MAGA Republicans. You tweeted in 2016
I knew this
Trump
was coming.
stole an election.
I was waiting, Peter, when you were going to ask me that question.
Well, great. Here we go. You tweeted Trump stole an election. You tweeted Brian Kemp stole an election. If denying election results is extreme now, why wasn't
So
it then?
let's be really clear. That comparison that you made is just ridiculous. I have been. Well, you're asking me a question. Yes. Let me answer it.
And you said it was ridiculous.
I was talking specifically at that time of what was happening with voting rights and what was in danger of voting rights. That's what I was speaking to at the time.
Yeah, she's lying. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Look, you lied. Hey, my thoughts changed. What do you want me to do? And I don't give a damn if she's in bed, literally, with CNN. I don't give a damn about any of it. Just tell the truth. You did. And now you're on the other side.
I really believe this is why God gave us two arms, one for the flu shot and the other one for the COVID shot.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. God gave us two arms because he said, look, there's going to be, out of Wuhan, a virus that is made in a lab that's going to spread, ironically enough, around election time through the United States. And I'm giving you 2 arms, not to eat, drink, function. I'm giving you 2 arms for a shot here and a shot there. That's what he did. How can you argue? It is literally, and I'm being literal here, impossible to argue with the stupidity we hear every day. Join me, 9 to 11 Eastern Time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy, and if you missed my last show, you may be experiencing some FOMO, so this is what you missed. But now, in an effort to further punish, stigmatize, and keep tabs on gun owners, New York City officials such as Mayor Eric Adams and Comptroller Brad Lander are pressuring credit card companies to create a system to trace gun and ammo purchases, even holding the city's government retirement investments over their head to do so. Now, they say this is all to prevent future mass shootings, which, first of all, now they're suddenly worried about violent crime. Weird. But secondly, that excuse is a load of crap. This is another strategy the government will use to not only shame and stigmatize gun owners, but look over our shoulders like Big Brother from hell. If I told you a few years ago the government would start pressuring private companies to monitor and report your purchases, you'd call me a right-wing nut conspiracy theorist. Sure. Well, I'd rather be a conspiracy theorist with a knack for hitting the nail on the head than a mindless sheep who believes the government is my savior, my messiah, and my keeper. But oddly enough, young girls do look up to Lizzo. She is supposedly the poster child for body positivity, which is fine, except obesity, heart disease, and diabetes are all leading killers of Americans, but whatever, you do you, Lizzo. But there are a lot of things Lizzo is. Oppressed is not one of them.
I don't know what music video for good means, but I do know what your vote means, and that's a lot. Your vote means everything to me. It means everything to making a change in this country. So remember, when you're voting for your favorite artist, vote to change some of these laws that are oppressing us.
Is that what oppression looks like in America? Because if so, that's a very interesting definition, and I think truly oppressed and marginalized people from around the world would beg to differ. I've got more hot takes every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and you know I'll have some final thoughts at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on OutKick.com.
6th and Peabody, our location in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Every week at this time, it's time for Primary Complaint.
It's time to air our top grievance of the week.
You can complain all you want.
My job is so unfulfilling.
Don't run away from your feelings.
It's time for Primary Complaint on OutKick 360.
Guys, my primary complaint this week, the media members that cover college football that openly complain about the matchups for Power 5 going on the road to non-Power 5. Two direct results of some of the best games of the weekend. NC State on the road, UNC on the road. Because, mandated or not, it made for great matchups in week 1 of college football, fun games against quality opponents, and great college football moments were built off of that. For all the tweets are like, oh, if I'm the commissioner of the ACC, I'm not allowing this. I'm like, we need more of this, not less, because we need more games that are quality in the second half of the opening weekend of college football. That's my primary complaint.
Love it, and I wrote a piece about that. You can read it at OutKick.com of 5 other games like that, Power 5 at Group of 5 conference schools in state that I'd like to see on a regular basis, home and home, alternating every year. My primary complaint this week, we need to get to an acceptable level of trash talk in Major League Baseball that doesn't result in people coming out of the dugout and staring at each other. There was an incident, I'll call it. Wasn't really a brawl, but Orioles, Blue Jays yesterday where the pitcher made some sort of gesture, said something to the dugout, and this prompts the entire dugout to then come onto the field and start staring and talking trash and holding things up. We need to get to a point where you could have some give and take from the dugout. If you're on the field, you want to yell at someone in the dugout, have at it. If they want to yell back, have at it. You know you don't want to fight. You're not going to fight. So stop with the charade. Let's just have some trash talk without having to come out of the dugout and make a big show of it. That is my primary complaint.
My primary complaint is the weather in Kingman, Arizona. Another place that is suffering from something new to me, and I'm constantly educated about weather events that I didn't know existed. That's on me for not being educated, but I also feel like there are constantly new weather events being created right before our eyes. As you can see here, I took this screenshot from weather.com earlier this morning. It's a dust storm powered by a thunderstorm, and it's called a haboob, which sounds, as you can tell, like a made-up word that they made up yesterday just for this storm to give me an alert that caused me to click on their website. A haboob. I mean, what is that? It's a dust storm powered by a thunderstorm, but it sounds like a dust storm to me, not a haboob. Are we buying this? Did I get tricked?
A sandstorm, like I would call it that, or a dust storm. I didn't know that it was haboob.
Haboob is making me feel like I'm a boob for clicking on this thing and bringing it here. But that's my primary complaint, is that there's such a thing called a haboob and that it's anything different than a dust storm.
It's always fascinating to me when there's a name for something, but no one uses the name. Like how we just eliminated the title of something and call it something else.
I think we should all incorporate this into our general speech. Hey, guys, did you hear about the haboob in Kingman, Arizona?
I'd love for meteorologists just to be talking about it. We got a strong chance of a haboob happening in this county overnight.
Why can't they just call it a dust storm?
Because it's a haboob. It's more specific and precise as to what it means in terms of how the dust is reacting to a thunderstorm. I don't know how people don't want more games like you're bringing up, Hut. It's just like they're programmed by they're programmed to want blowouts.
Yeah, I mean, when you see it, you're like, man, this is a tough environment for any Power 5 to go on the road. And I was mentioning Vanderbilt's schedule. Vanderbilt's going on the road to Northern Illinois. I don't know if that's going to be a good game, but I would love to see Illinois visit Northern Illinois, for instance. Something like that. That's fine. If you're if you're at the bottom of the barrel Power 5 and you're trying to claw your way out, I understand the argument against doing the road trips like this, but for North Carolina or NC State or any of these schools to go on the road, it created a great environment where both teams delivered, and I was locked into both. Otherwise, I'm not watching those games.
It's much better on the road than at home.
Yeah, and I wrote about it. An example in this state would be Tennessee and Memphis every year, home and home.
Yeah,
would make for some exciting moments, and that is a Power 5 going on the road to a Group of 5 school every other year. I wish we had more games like this.
Memphis would undoubtedly be more interesting.
Colorado State's a good example that happens annually. Of that in-state rivalry.
Keep it going.
Teams are back on the practice field. Quarterbacks are talking. We've got NFL headlines next on OutKick 360. NFL teams are beginning their preparation for Week 1 kickoff. Of course, tomorrow night we've got the Bills and the Rams, and then Sunday stacked wall to wall leading up to Monday Night Football. And Sunday Night Football, by the way, is Bucs and Cowboys. Injury reports being released for the first time all off season right now. Zach Wilson for the Jets, he's not going to be ready until Week 4. Robert Saleh saying that after earlier this week, the team was saying that he had a chance to play this week.
And I said then I thought it was posturing, and clearly it was.
Well, posturing for what if you're going to announce it on Wednesday?
I don't know. The posturing to buy 2 days of your opponent preparing in some way. There's a football nonsense that we discuss all the time. So for two additional days or a day and a half, your opponent thinks that they might see your starting quarterback. And now your opponents know that 3 weeks they're not going to see.
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, Joe Flacco. He's the starter in New York.
So we just started a suicide pool. Maybe that's I don't know if you're allowed to use that word anymore.
What?
A knockout pool?
Knockout pool.
Yeah.
And the Titans press room, and everybody took the Ravens.
Oh, the Ravens to win.
To win. So if there'll be a lot of money available for 2 or 3 people if the Jets pull a surprise.
Colt McCoy is headed to injured reserve with an arm injury, and Trace McSorley has been elevated from the practice squad as the backup quarterback in Arizona.
Again, a small sample size, but we saw Trace McSorley here against the Titans in Week 3 of the preseason. It looked pretty good.
Alan Lazard got stepped on last week. That's what LaFleur said today. He did not practice for the Packers, and there's no update on his status moving forward for the Minnesota game on the road this Sunday. But that's one to watch because he's the what did Rodgers say? He's like one Hall of Famer left. We've got another one about to step in.
Yeah.
And Alan Lazard. So he got, I don't know, that's all that LaFleur said was got stepped on.
Has he been listed yet or no?
It said the report said he did not practice.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson says that the contract deadline between he and the Ravens will be Friday, and that the both sides continue to talk, and that he had said earlier in the offseason that he was not going to negotiate once the regular season rolled around. And reporters asked him about that. He goes, yeah, and I'm about to lock in. We're going to cut things off at the end of the week.
And I believe that's the case for virtually anybody with a contract situation hanging over his head. Jeffrey Simmons here in Nashville, we haven't heard anything about.
Yeah.
I would be surprised. I'll be surprised if anything's announced this week. But beyond Saturday afternoon, I would presume it's dead until after the season for the same reason. And that's become a pretty universal thing, or a largely universal thing. Don't you feel like we don't hear about many contracts announced during the course of the NFL season?
It's definitely the way to go when you don't have an agent. I mean, I know that John McClain keeps saying he has advisors, which I'm sure he does, but I mean, if you're actually negotiating your own contract as your own agent,
you're not showering up and
down.
walking upstairs to the executives' offices after practice.
Yeah, you're shutting that down once the season arrives.
Something to watch for the 49ers as they go on the road in Chicago. George Kittle suffered a groin injury in Monday's practice, and he is not practicing today, per reports. It's unclear right now if it will keep him out this week. That from Nick Wagner. So
another knockout-style game.
Yes. Let's see. Chris Godwin, full participant for the Bucs, coming off that knee injury. Russell Gage, however, was limited. I believe he has a hamstring. And right tackle Tristan Wirfs was limited as well with an abdominal issue. That's one to watch because the Bucs offensive line.
It's already got 3 subs starting.
Yep.
So did you see the thing where Brady basically said I saw an article written that his style is basically like when people are universally down on something close to him, his style is to take it to those guys and be like, see what everybody's saying you can't do? What are you going to do about it? So his style with those offensive linemen basically is, everybody says you guys can't do it now. What are you going to do about it? So, not like aggressively or loud or anything like that. Just
this is what they.
This is what everybody's saying. What are we going to do?
You going to prove him right
what
or
are you
prove him
gonna
wrong?
do?
Yeah.
And it's a great vote of confidence coming from Brady.
That's his motivational tactic style.
Yeah, it's worked in New England. There have been multiple seasons where they've had a guy go down or the center for a period of time, and they've made it work.
Or for all those crappy receivers that he had over his time who did just enough. Most of the time did just enough.
Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari are both limited today in practice for the Giants. Ojulari is coming off of an injury where he was on PUP to start camp, and Thibodeau was hurt in week 2 of the preseason with his knee, with a strain on his MCL, I believe. Limited, though, is a bit of a surprise based on Thibodeau's reaction yesterday in the locker room where he was just open about it. He's like, look, if I can't practice, I'm not going to play. And I feel like I'm close, but we'll see. And it just had a tone of maybe it's another week. And the fact that he's limited sounds like they're ramping it up for him.
How do you feel about that as a knockout game?
I would like it. I mean, that's probably it's high on the list.
Titans over Giants.
The biggest point spread of the week is 8, and that's Indy at Houston this week. And the Titans are at 6 now, I think. I want to say so. It's one of the biggest. I mean, it's crazy to think 6 points, but it's one of the biggest spreads of the opening weekend.
Yeah, I think the Titans should be taking care of business this week. I think week 2 on that Monday night tells you a lot, and they've had great success against this good Buffalo team in the last couple of years. So Buffalo is really due, and the last couple have been here. And this one's in Buffalo.
You need to get to 1-0 going on that trip.
Yeah, because you're due to lose that.
You're staring 0-2 down the barrel if you drop one at home to the Giants.
You think it matters this early, week 1 of the season, that Buffalo's opening up on Thursday and they don't play again until Monday?
I think you take it any time you can get
11 days.
And it's very convenient at the beginning because you got unlimited time to prep, and then getting an immediate rest for another good opponent. It's a nice advantage.
Are there any other knockout go into your theme there?
Yeah.
Any
Those
other
are the
contenders?
3 big ones. Ravens over Jets, San Francisco over Chicago, Titans over Giants. You know, most people don't want to use Colts over Houston early. That's another one. Seahawks, Broncos over Seahawks.
Broncos, Seahawks.
Oh, the
I would
rules of
think
this,
those
you
are
can
the
only
5.
use the
only
team
use
once.
the team once. So where would you go? I went Ravens. Once Flacco was installed, I can't see them losing to the Jets. But you don't want to be with the pack generally, and I am with a big pack. So that game goes the wrong way. You're in great shape if you took somebody else.
I'm with you on that. I'm just thinking through it. Like, I think Lamar Jackson is going to go off this year. Like, he comes across as a guy who knows he's going to ball out and he's going to get paid either way. And he's demanding the guaranteed contract and all. Like, I think this is a great year for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore.
I just think regressing to the regular for Baltimore carries them a long way because they're well coached, good drafting,
very consistent
team. I don't like them in terms of the weaponry and the offense. Like you brought up last week, and I think the Titans are in the same boat. And you're going to get into this later, but come the playoffs, I don't think they're a very damaging team.
Yeah, can you win in different ways in the postseason?
And they can't.
Let me give you an outside-the-box knockout candidate this week.
Please.
If you have to use every team once, Carolina at home against
I thought about it.
The backup quarterback for the Browns.
Browns have a pretty good defense.
And a motivated Baker Mayfield in this game.
Well, Browns have a pretty good defense and a motivated defense. Yeah. So I could see it going heavy one way or the other.
It's a flyer on a team that's not going to be that good that you could get out of the way early.
Yeah. Well, you could get out of the pool early, too.
Yeah.
Well,
or you could just be done.
That's not a bad pick.
Hey, Paul, good news is you don't have to worry about it ever again if they don't win this week.
Well, the thing to do, one thing you could do, if I should ask the guy who decided to run it, if there's re-entry. Because if there's re-entry, you throw in $10, you go ahead and take a flyer on the Rams or the Bills, win that game or lose it. If you win it, you're in great shape because you've taken the Bills or the Rams. Well, I mean, you're not in great shape, but if you lose it, you can get back in and go on Sunday.
I like the Panthers in that game just because Christian McCaffrey's healthy and available. They're 3-0 last year with him with Sam Darnold at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody loves
You should
Cleveland's
take the Panthers while you have
situation.
McCaffrey healthy in the knockout.
Well, is he making halftime?
You see the report that Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, whenever they traded him, the Broncos were not the only team to call and inquire about trading for him throughout the process. In fact, the Commanders, the Giants, and the Saints also called Seattle about the 9-time Pro Bowler earlier this year.
Well, I'm halfway or 3/4 of the way through the very lengthy ESPN story about things coming apart between Seattle and Russell Wilson. And there's one vignette in there about, I guess it was his last season, where, he really wanted to win MVP. So he started his second to last year big. It's 2 years in a row. He started big, and things were really tracking well. And then they went south, and Carroll went back to, less of letting Russ cook, and there were injuries and everything. Then the second year, again, off to a really good start. And there was one moment in one game, things had started to go south, and he rolled out of a dangerous situation where the pocket was collapsing, and he had a lot of room to run. And instead of running, he tried some crazy long-distance throw that fell incomplete and was dangerous or whatever. And they quote unnamed Seattle executive saying, like, geez, man, what are we trying here, to win the game or to win MVP?
Wow.
And that was really telling. And Russ, they've got Russ either
was that
quoted,
said to him, or this was said to the author of the piece?
Like the guy said it in his head
yeah.
in the box, and then said it to this guy in the piece. But they were really either outwardly or inwardly at odds about this, where he really wanted to join the great quarterback list of Peyton and Brady and Rodgers. And they were like, listen, we've won a lot doing it the way that we've done it with Pete Carroll's structure. And then they thought he's lost a step in terms of the mobility that made him so good. And between the fracturing relationship and them seeing that lost step, they were like, screw it, we're done.
So the dominoes that had to fall into place all started with Aaron Rodgers this offseason, deciding he was staying, and they paid him.
Because
50.
Denver would have preferred him.
Yeah, so Denver's waiting on that. The minute that Rodgers announces he's staying, within the hour, I believe, is whenever the trade was announced to Denver.
Who were the other teams? Giants, Commanders?
And the Saints. So the Saints
would have been a good situation.
Consider, this is what's interesting about the Saints. The Saints wanted Russell Wilson. They wanted Deshaun Watson. And then they re-signed Jameis Winston. And they're a
everybody acts like they're
a
good.
hot pick on their third quarterback, based on all these reports.
I don't
also,
get it.
the Commanders.
Peter King has them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. The Commanders.
You got calmed down there.
They wanted Russell Wilson. It sounds like Seattle kept New Orleans in the picture in order to get a better price that Denver was going to pay. Washington was informed Russell Wilson didn't want anything to do with them. They end up trading for Carson Wentz. So the Colts end up getting the good end of this as well. They're improved because Russell Wilson went to Denver and didn't want to go to Washington. All of these moving parts are interesting because the Colts end up with Matt Ryan twofold, because the Falcons wanted Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson wanted Denver.
Denver's the best place to go, but New Orleans might have been the best place to go to win. Now, there's uncertainty with the coaching change and all of that, but the NFC is clearly weaker. And the NFC South, might have been a two-team division, but only for a year. Brady's not staying there. Even if things hadn't sorted out at that point in time, Brady's not staying there for very long. You've got a better chance long-term to win there. The conference, I know it's going to circle around and even out and all of that, but your immediate future, it's going to be easier for the Saints to break through more consistently there than it's going to be in the AFC. And you know what you're going into in the AFC West. So, the Giants, I would have given an outside shot there. The Giants, have been in a lot of flux, but when the Giants had a consistent quarterback, they went to the Super Bowl and won it twice.
Yep.
And he seems to soak up that media stuff. And New York raises you to a whole different level.
All over the U.S. Open, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
He was at every Serena match.
Yeah, his deadline was based on his going to New York for that weekend.
Well, he hand selected Denver, and the report in the meat of the report, it's Pete Carroll was waiting on Russell Wilson to pull the plug. Like, tell us that you want to be traded,
and we'll do it.
And I think leading up to the end of the 2021 season, he had not done that. He was doing sit-down interviews with different people on Thursday Night Football to Sunday Night Football, whatever, saying that everything was good. And while that was going on, Pete Carroll was waiting on the go-ahead.
And a year earlier, this piece kind of lays everything out. A year earlier is when he was at the Super Bowl to get the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, but he was miserable watching the game, thinking about how much he wanted to be there, and he went right from there into, I think it might have been the Colin Cowherd. I don't remember who he did the interview with, where he bemoaned the offensive line, bemoaned the style of play and all of that, with really as big a call out as you'll see of an organization from a franchise quarterback. That's where things really, like America came to know that, hey, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks are having some serious issues.
And now he's in a stacked AFC West that will play a big factor in the overall playoff picture. We have our playoff picks and predictions for the NFL season coming up. Maybe we're going to put some money behind what we're talking about with DraftKings. Bet $5, get $200 instantly for all new DraftKings users. You've got to be 21 years or older, and this is for first-time DraftKings Sportsbook customers only. Make a deposit of at least $5 in your Sportsbook account, then place a wager of at least $5 on NFL or college football games between now and Week 2 of the NFL season, which is September 19th. By doing that, you'll receive $200 instantly in your account, in addition to any cash winnings from your original wager once it settles. And you've got the up 7 offer at DraftKings right now for tomorrow's game, Thursday night, Bills and Rams. Pick your team to go up a touchdown, get paid immediately. You win your moneyline bet if your team leads by at least 7 points at any point in the game, even if that team goes on to lose against the Bills or against the Rams. Bills-Rams, up 7, early win at DraftKings and the DraftKings app.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. Why would you stay in a stadium that the Parks Department runs? You don't even run the stadium if you're the Chicago Bears. You don't even run it. You have nothing to do with the stadium. They renovated it. Everybody acts like they renovated Soldier Field 10 minutes ago. It was 2002. They made it look like a spaceship. I don't know about you, but there's been a lot in this world with NFL teams that has been done since 2002. Children, please. 2002 was 20 years ago. 20 years is a lifetime in facilities renovation. Who the hell wants to live in that city, or at least who in the hell wants to own a franchise on the south side of that city?
Jacob deGrom. I've played with two of the greatest ever. Randy Johnson in Arizona. Roger Clemens won back-to-back Cy Young Awards, 96, 97, and 98 when I was with the Blue Jays. I've seen them all. Jacob deGrom, in my opinion, when he's healthy, Dan, is the best pitcher I've seen in person. He's so good, Dan. I watched so many baseball games that 3 years ago I wanted to see for myself. So I went on Vivid Seats, bought a ticket for myself, sat 2 rows behind home plate because I wanted to see, because I know what Clemens looks like. I've seen Saberhagen throw. I've seen them all. Dan, he is the best pitcher I have ever seen. I have never seen a guy that throws 98 to 100 with less effort than he does. It is smooth. It's under control. He has a nasty slider that comes out of what makes him so good, Dan. Everything comes out of this plane here, and one goes straight and the other breaks down, and you have a split second to decide which one.
Join me 9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy, and if you missed my last show, you may be experiencing some FOMO, so this is what you missed.
They get the mullet, but they're not living the lifestyle. They'll come. I'll see them come join the group, and I'm an admin in the the big mullet group on Facebook, the mullet that changed my life, and they'll come in there and they're just bully people, and that's not something that we stand for. So we get rid of them as soon as they come in usually.
I would be willing to bet at least 50% of them work at the Frothy Monkey in Nashville, Tennessee, because I've seen a lot of liberal mullets there, and you're exactly right. It is not the mullet lifestyle. It's just a weird haircut with a lot of different colors, and females with unshaved legs, armpits, that kind of thing. That's not the mullet lifestyle. The mullet lifestyle is clean. It's America first. We love our country. We love God. We love Tennessee, all those things. It was the last week of August, and the losers were out in full force. So let's get started with loser number 1, Lizzo. Not only did she dress like a literal trash bag on the VMA red carpet, but after winning an award under the category Video for Good, she delivered an expletive-ridden acceptance speech proving you can take the girl out of the trash bag, but you can't take the trash bag out of the girl.
To the bitches that got something to say about me in the press, you know what? I'm not gonna say nothing. They be like, Lizzo, why don't you clap back? Why don't you clap back? Cause bitch, I'm winning, ho. Big bitch is winning, ho! That's what bitches show people, bitch!
Nothing exemplifies a Video for Good victor quite like calling people bitches and hoes, am I right? I've got more hot takes every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and you know I'll have some final thoughts at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on OutKick.com.
Felt like the Jets had all this offseason momentum. Great draft. Zach Wilson's coming into year number 2, and then all of a sudden people stopped talking about the Jets because Joe Flacco is going to be playing the first 3 weeks. OutKick 360 rolls on. I'll be shocked if any of us have the Jets in the playoffs as we go through our NFL predictions. Guys, we did this last year, and this year we're going to keep up with them at the end of all this.
We have graphics now this year, so we're ready to go. They'll live forever.
So I've got the my playoff field for the AFC, and I've got the Bills and Titans. So they didn't put this in the order. So I've got the Bills as the number 1 seed, and I'm taking Buffalo just like everyone else is here for the right reasons. They're stacked. They have the best quarterback. The Titans are making the playoffs, and I think they're winning the division for the 3rd consecutive year behind the ground attack and the fronts that I think will be okay in time. They've found a way over the last couple of years with offensive linemen out, Lawan in and out. They've moved chess pieces around, and they've made it work because of their style of play, which is conducive to the run game. So I have them winning the division, and I have them winning 11 games, which is why I have them as a 2 seed. And I have them ahead of the other 2 because I think the other 2 teams that are going to win their divisions in the AFC are going to get suffer some losses along the way just based on the division they're playing in. The Chargers out of the AFC West and the Baltimore Ravens, they're winning the AFC North. Wild card, give me the Bengals, who I think will be very good. the Chiefs out of the West, and I think the Colts get in because unlike John McClain yesterday, who thinks all 4 AFC West teams are getting in, I think that division's going to eat its own. And there will be an AFC, they're playing the AFC South. I think the Colts are good enough to beat a couple of those teams in the AFC West. And ultimately, I think the Colts barely get in right at the end of things in the AFC. So I'm going Bills, Titans, Chargers, Ravens as division winners, followed by wildcard teams of the Bengals, Chiefs, and Colts.
Mine's going to look very similar. I'm up now, right?
Yep.
My turn to go. With a couple of exceptions, though, Hutton. With my picks, I am going with, in the AFC North, the Ravens. In the East, the Bills, much like your pick. I'm with you in that I think Lamar Jackson is about to have an enormous season for the Ravens, and he's going to parlay that into a lot of money with someone. So give me the Ravens in the North, Bills, I think probably everybody's pick in the AFC East. I like the Chiefs. We talked about this division yesterday. I'm probably different from you guys. I'm bullish on the Chiefs. Even without Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be a big addition. I think they continue to roll in that division. So give me the Chiefs to win the AFC West. Titans in the South, I think it's close with the Colts.
I agree.
I think it's very close with the Colts, but give me the Titans. I've waffled back and forth on picking the Colts to win the division, but give me the Titans, the AFC South. The wild card teams, Cincinnati. There's going to be no huge post-Super Bowl slump or post-Super Bowl loser slump for Cincinnati. So give me the Bengals to make the playoffs. The Colts, as I said, they're going to be very close to winning the division in the South. And the Raiders out of the AFC West. So I've got John McClain had all 4 teams in the AFC West going. I've got Chiefs, Raiders at the top of the division going to the playoffs.
And Hutton, you only had 2 as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Only 2.
You
because
had Chargers, Chiefs.
Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I'm thinking about who those divisions are playing.
Yep.
Right? Paul, mix it up for us. Who do you have?
Well, I have the Bills in the East.
You wanted to see. You were the
and the Titans in the South.
Paul really wanted to go with the Jets.
Before
but
you go through
mix
this,
it up a little bit.
Can I ask one question? If Zach Wilson doesn't get hurt, were you tempted at all to think that the Jets may make a run at the wild card?
I'll talk you through my temptation. But I had the Bills in the East and the Titans in the South, which makes us the same. But I'm not as high on the Ravens. I'm higher.
Mm-hmm.
You both like the Bengals. I like them even more. I've got them repeating as division winners. And I think they do a lot of picking up where they left off. I like them a lot as a division winner. And I remain all in on the Chargers, who I think made substantial gains at positions where they needed to get better. I think they're going to defend the run a lot better. I think Herbert is going to take it up even a notch from where he was and be a top MVP candidate this season. I like the Ravens to bounce back, just to regress to regress to the Ravens, if you will. I like the Chiefs as a second wild card, and I was torn between the Raiders and the Dolphins, not the Jets.
Or the Colts.
I think that the Titans and the Colts are going to be close and not with a great record. I think the Titans probably win. I'm not big on Titan predictions, but I think the Titans probably win 10 games and the Colts probably win 9. And I don't know that you're getting into playoffs at 9. That'd be 9 and 8 now. I think that the Colts are very much like the Titans, just lesser. And I think the Titans come back a little bit with Harold,
the Titans, just worse.
The Titans light. Well, they've got a similar quarterback, but he's not mobile.
Yeah.
And he's older. They've got bad receivers also. And nobody's talking about their bad receivers. Michael Pittman's the best of the lot. They don't have a lot of speed there either. And I don't think they're as sound defensively across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm picking them because I think they're good enough to get a couple of those teams in the West whenever they face them. But nationally, they can do no wrong. They were the pick last year. The vast majority of those predicting the Colts season have them winning the division this year. And I agree with you. I would take the Titans head up. And
I think the Titans snapshot for most people, no matter how many times they're on national TV, no matter if they go to Los Angeles and beat the Rams in SoFi without Derrick Henry, the snapshot for them is the Cincinnati game, and they can't get that out of their head. And look, I understand. When they get to the playoffs, don't pick them.
Yeah.
Right? But in the division, they beat the Colts twice, and Mike Vrabel's superior to Frank Reich.
I totally agree. Let's stay on the AFC briefly because all of us, these three teams we left out, all three of us, the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Broncos. None of us have them represented. Paul, you explained
I think the Dolphins are the closest to me, but that's a bit of a leap of faith on Mike McDaniel.
Well, see, but this is the big difference between the AFC and what we're about to get into. I think there will be 8 or 9 teams that will be worthy of the playoffs this year.
And we're going to struggle on the other side to wedge in somebody.
There will be a good team as a 7 seed this year in the AFC.
Be a
unlike
good
last
team
year,
as
which
8
was
or 9,
Pittsburgh with Roethlisberger at quarterback, which he was, I would say, the worst quarterback last year. And
Philadelphia was
that
in the NFC
change.
side, the 7th seed a year ago, and they were not very good.
Oh, they were way better than Pittsburgh, though.
Yeah.
And they're growing.
When I say way better than Pittsburgh, they were far more productive towards the end of the year.
To your point, I mean, I think that those 3 teams the 8, 9, and 10 teams are going to be good in the AFC.
Yep.
Even teams that aren't in the playoffs are going to be solid teams.
What order do you stack those 3 teams in? I like Miami the best. I like Pittsburgh second best. I'm really down on Denver.
I think I've reversed it. I go Denver, Pittsburgh. I'd feel better about Pittsburgh if they were starting Kenny Pickett to start the season, quite frankly. I'd go Denver, Pittsburgh, Miami.
Yeah, either quarterback, I'm putting Pittsburgh third in that stack. I like Russell Wilson. I think he's extremely efficient and productive. Other than last year when he broke his finger and he was only out, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Came back too soon, it turned out.
He plays. He's available always. That was the first game he's missed in his career, I believe. First start. So I would put Denver, Miami, and Pittsburgh. And as I'm thinking this through, I'm also thinking, man, do not count out Mike Tomlin. And the other 2 franchises have first-time head coaches calling plays.
Because Mike Tomlin has never not been, is that correct?
Has never what?
Has always been to the playoffs. Is that correct?
No. That's
early.
Not,
has been to the playoffs.
They've never had a losing season.
Never had a losing season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
And last year they had the tie. They tied with Detroit, I believe.
So they were 8-8-1?
No, I think they were 9-7-1.
Yeah,
was
that's
their
pretty
record.
impressive. Pretty damn impressive. NFC harder.
Yeah, to the NFC. I love the Rams here. I've got the Rams as my 1 seed, winning the West. I have the Saints in.
Look at you on the Saint.
I have the Saints winning, and I think it's due in large part to how they perform against their division rivals. They tend to play very well against the Bucs, and I'm down on the other 2 teams ultimately. We'll find out where you guys have the Panthers soon. I've got the Eagles and the Packers as my other 2 division winners. Wild cards, Cowboys, Bucs, and Vikings. I'm intrigued by the Vikings offense because they've got the weapons at running back, wide receiver, tight end. Cousins is, intermediate routes, extremely efficient with his completion percentage. And they now have I believe, a head coach in O'Connell that's going to be more pass first than run first. And their defense should be improved just because they're getting some guys back. And I think a fresh coach there helps things out a bit. So give me the Vikings that will actually score some points this year and some crucial matchups starting this week against the Packers. And what's going to be a fun NFC playoff race. However, this was not that hard for me to come up with. And in fact, the Vikings will be viewed, I think, similar to the Eagles or the Steelers from last year getting in at the
Is that in order for you? Were the Bucs your last team in?
No. My order, Rams, Saints, Eagles, Packers, as I stack this. Wild card, Cowboys, Bucs, and Vikings.
Vikings last in.
Vikings, my 7 seed. Chad?
Hutton, I'm shocked at some of our similarities, honestly. I thought I'd be really going out on a limb with some of these, but some of the similarities we have surprises me. I, too, have Green Bay winning their division. I, much like you, Hutton, have Philly. I'm big on Philly this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be – we're going to get into some big questions later in the show around the NFL. There's going to be a Philly theme to a few of my answers this season. I like the 49ers to win the division. I understand that –
this is the biggest surprise to me.
This gets a little bit hairy considering they kept Jimmy Garoppolo around. That does not make me feel great about Trey Lance and the situation there that Jimmy G is going to stay. But I still like the 49ers. I think Kyle Shanahan figures out a way to get it done.
They have a very good roster.
Debo Samuel coming back. Great roster. Could be shaky at quarterback. Could be great. We don't know. We haven't seen enough of Trey Lance
bust
yet
with
to know.
Lance.
Yes. And I'm going boom. And I'm going boom again with Tampa. I think they win the division. Not as high on the Saints this year. And my wild card teams, Cowboys, I really waffled back and forth on this one of them making the playoffs. But give me the Cowboys, the Rams, and the Vikings. I also like the Vikes coming out of the NFC North to make the playoffs.
Everybody's up on the Vikings nationwide, it seems like. And I'll go ahead and include myself. But
Paul's going to have the Bears in the playoffs.
I don't have them winning the division. Packers, Rams, Eagles, Bucks as division winners. Cowboys as a wild card. Vikings as a wild card. 49ers are my last in as a wild card. And I had a hard time finding a last in. I don't like the Saints. I'm not buying the Saints stuff, even if they were to sweep the Buccaneers. I figure they screw it up, lose to somebody else in the division, and the Bucs get a game ahead of them anyway. I don't like this field. I have a good feeling about Philadelphia too, despite the fact that I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be that good. I think this is going to be one of those teams that wins with a running quarterback and doesn't get enough pass delivery where A.J. Brown's going to be upset about it.
I'm higher on Hurts. Of the quarterbacks in a prove-it year, man, this is a golden platter for him.
Well, he's got a golden platter, but I think some of these run guys are going to run too much. I think they're going to be heaven for the people who drafted them in fantasy, but I don't think they're going to be heaven for their head coaches.
So the teams we left out, Cardinals and Commanders, I think those two would be, if we took a poll, probably the 8 and 9. Maybe not. Maybe you guys would
I think both those teams are coming apart.
I was going back and forth with Vikings, Cardinals, and Saints on my list. That did not make the cut to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think
Vikings
for me,
did.
The Saints are the next most talented team. But I just think there's too much automatic stamp of approval going around for them based on the amount of change on a big level with the coaching staff and dependence on Jameis Winston, who I just don't get the level of acceptance that he's getting, not from you, Hut, but Peter King giving Jameis Winston an NFC title is preposterous to me.
Yeah, it's they have a very good roster, though, of talent. They have drafted well.
Very well.
And, they're skilled position players. Michael Thomas is back, and you've got Olave there now, Kamara. They've got their O-line is very good, and their defense is one of the top in the league.
Here's the thing that bugs me. Dennis Allen failed first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive guy. And Pete Carmichael has always been in the shadows. He's never called plays, and he never got hired away. Nobody's ever gotten hired away from Sean Payton. Now, I know Sean Payton's part of the Parcells tree, but Sean Payton's coached there how long? There is no Sean Payton tree. Why not?
That's a great question.
Maybe they just really like working for him, and they've had chances, and they don't want to leave.
I don't think too many of them have had chance. Pete Carmichael got a couple interviews when they were in their prime, but that makes me wonder.
Guys, Super Bowl prediction, our matchups. I'll begin. I've got Bills and Rams in a rematch from this Thursday. Buffalo, and I think the Rams. A lot of people are just assuming, they're not making the repeat run, but they're running it back with the same talent. I'm bullish on them, just like I am with Josh Allen and Buffalo. So give me Buffalo and LA. And I'll give you my pick if we're supposed to do that now or later.
We're revealing after we should talk through these games?
Yeah, okay, good. Go ahead, Jeff.
Give me the Frozen Tundra Bowl. I'm going Buffalo, Green Bay.
The Frozen Tundra Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. On Fox.
These teams are going to feel right at home in the desert. I mean, if you're looking at desert-type conditions. Yeah, I got Buffalo, Green Bay.
I know who Paul's MVP of the league is based on his Super Bowl.
Yeah, listen, I'm just hoping there's no Haboob in Arizona while we're there.
Doesn't all LA Super Bowl, Paul, get the same run as like a Subway Series in New York?
No. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of the fact that it was LA when I made this pick. Listen, I'm all in on the Chargers. I think Staley's got to be a little bit smarter and take some things. John McClain hit on it well. Take a few more factors into consideration when he's making analytical choices. But I like somebody that is predisposed and predetermines a lot of what he's going to do based on in this situation. If we're in 3rd and 8 or shorter, we're gonna use 2 plays, and everybody knows it. I think there's a comfort level in that. I think the quarterback's fantastic. LA against LA would be quite something. Would the East Coast tune in for that one?
I think they would.
Yes.
I think for a Super Bowl they might turn their television set on.
Yeah, if it was Angels Dodgers, not so much.
So Buffalo's the favorite to win the Super Bowl in Vegas, and they're a popular pick. Is it Super Bowl or bust now for them?
Yes.
Like it is.
Well, I would say if it was another team, getting there would be enough. But because they've been there and lost so much in their history,
4 straight times,
and because they're so good, I think if they got there and lost this year, it would be viewed as a disappointment.
I'm taking the Bills to win Super Bowl 57 in Glendale. I think this is where Josh Allen takes over, and the full regime of the young quarterbacks from 3 years ago take over the league this year from Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Personally, I think Allen leads the pack, and I can't wait to see what they do through the playoffs because they have now added even more of a pass rush. They've added Von Miller, who's been very productive wherever he's been. Defensively, they're very good. They need Tre'Davious White to get healthy, but offensively, he's got all the weapons around him. And give me Josh Allen and a very underrated Sean McDermott as a head coach to win the Super Bowl.
By the way, Trey on Twitter, Paul, says Dan Campbell is part of the Sean Payton tree.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all right. There you go.
That's
There's
one.
I don't like Dan
There's
Campbell.
one.
So I am going with the Buffalo Bills to lose their 5th Super Bowl in franchise history, and the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers to win that elusive 2nd Super Bowl this year. So I've got Packers over the Bills.
I am going with the lesser LA team in terms of fan support and all of that.
The broke team.
The Chargers to win the Super Bowl. Look, they're not coming out of nowhere the way Cincinnati did last year. Expectations are high. They're a popular upset pick here. But I think they'll finish it in a way that the Bengals didn't finish it last year. And I admit part of this is, it's very easy to pick the Bills.
Yeah.
Right now, it's very easy to pick the Bucks or the Packers, and I'm looking for something different. I've been on the Chargers train. I think Telesco, the GM, did an excellent job of addressing their holes, and I think it'd be good for the league if something like this happened, where a team that last year broke through to a certain degree, missed the playoffs narrowly, went out and addressed, and the Bills have been doing this for a couple of years, very clearly addressing their deficiencies and on a nice track, complete kind of their course, and get the golden ticket.
Defensively, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson's there now. I know he's on the mend. But
and then some of those run stop pieces up front who don't get the headlines.
There we go.
I think that's a good exercise.
Put it in sand.
Everybody did. Yeah,
Write
put
it
it in
in.
stand. Put it in
It's there.
Stand.
Graphics
That's
exist.
a combination of
this
stone
segment
and
will
sand.
exist.
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere.
When we come back, my primary complaint had to do with Power 5 visiting the group of 5 schools. We'll take it a step further with some poor football matchups and look at the Power 5 against the FCS this season and the number of games. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look.
The new attention on the MAGA Republicans. You tweeted in
Oh, I knew
2016
this was
Trump
coming.
stole an
Oh.
election. You
I was
tweeted-
waiting, Peter, when you were going to ask me that question.
Well, great. Here we go. You tweeted Trump stole an election. You tweeted Brian Kemp stole an election. If denying election results is extreme now,
Yeah.
why wasn't
So
it then?
let's be really clear. That comparison that you made is just ridiculous. I have been. Well, you're asking me a question. Let me answer it.
And you said it was ridiculous.
I was talking specifically at that time of what was happening with voting rights and what was in danger of voting rights. That's what I was speaking to at the time.
Yeah, she's lying. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Look, you lied. Hey, my thoughts changed. What do you want me to do? And I don't give a damn if she's in bed, literally, with CNN. I don't give a damn about any of it. Just tell the truth. You did. And now you're on the other side.
I really believe this is why God gave us 2 arms, one for the flu shot and the other one for the COVID shot.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. God gave us 2 arms because he said, look, there's going to be, out of Wuhan, a virus that is made in a lab that's going to spread, ironically enough, around election time through the United States. And I'm giving you 2 arms, not to eat, drink, function. I'm giving you 2 arms for a shot here and a shot there. That's what he did. How can you argue? It is literally, and I'm being literal here, impossible to argue with the stupidity we hear every day. Join me, 9 to 11 Eastern Time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy, and if you missed my last show, you may be experiencing some FOMO, so this is what you missed. But now, in an effort to further punish, stigmatize, and keep tabs on gun owners, New York City officials such as Mayor Eric Adams and Comptroller Brad Lander are pressuring credit card companies to create a system to trace gun and ammo purchases, even holding the city's government retirement investments over their head to do so. Now, they say this is all to prevent future mass shootings, which, first of all, now they're suddenly worried about violent crime. Weird. But secondly, that excuse is a load of crap. This is another strategy the government will use to not only shame and stigmatize gun owners, but look over our shoulders like Big Brother from hell. If I told you a few years ago the government would start pressuring private companies to monitor and report your purchases, you'd call me a right-wing nut conspiracy theorist. Sure. Well, I'd rather be a conspiracy theorist with a knack for hitting the nail on the head than a mindless sheep who believes the government is my savior, my messiah, and my keeper. But oddly enough, young girls do look up to Lizzo. She is supposedly the poster child for body positivity, which is fine, except obesity, heart disease, and diabetes are all leading killers of Americans, but whatever, you do you, Lizzo. But there are a lot of things Lizzo is. Oppressed is not one of them.
I don't know what music video for good means, but I do know what your vote means, and that's a lot. Your vote means everything to me. It means everything to making a change in this country. So remember, when you're voting for your favorite artist, vote to change some of these laws that are oppressing us.
Is that what oppression looks like in America? Because if so, that's a very interesting definition, and I think truly oppressed and marginalized people from around the world would beg to differ. I've got more hot takes every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and you know I'll have some final thoughts at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on OutKick.com.
There are 69 Power 5 programs. And I was doing the math in my head because I'm also counting some future ones that are moving up. Like Cincy.
Cincy, UCF,
Right.
Houston.
There's 69 of those programs to be in Power 5.
BYU.
OutKick 360 rolls on. How many Power 5 versus FCS matchups do you think college football has this year?
Power 5 versus FCS.
Like Auburn played Mercer
Yeah.
last year. You've got Samford visiting Athens this weekend.
Most teams have one. So of the 69 Power 5 teams, I'm going to guess there's 67 matchups.
Paul?
I'll go under. Say
Either way, there's way too many. So
58.
There are 54 matchups this year between a Power 5 school and an FCS opponent.
It should never be played.
And part of the reason, other than a guaranteed win, part of the reason that they're played is FCS opponents charge less than a group of 5 school to go on the road and
take a beating.
Yeah. Mercer, the AD at Mercer.
We'll give you a discount.
In an article at The Athletic, Jim Cole just played Auburn last week, and he says the Mercer athletic department has an annual budget of $20 million, and that the game at Auburn only netted them about $500,000. Meanwhile, you have
quarter of their budget.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry.
No, and not, I mean they can make that up in fundraising if they had to. That was his point. He's like, if they go away whenever we have the massive conference, if you want to have the Power 2 moving forward, and they go away with the SEC going to a 9-game schedule, for instance, he was like, we'll make that up some way. It's not going to be detrimental to us. Now Mercer's a private school, but there will be other examples, I'm sure, of ADs that are going to be looking for that $500,000. Point being, if you're trying to get, I'd like to know what App State is getting paid to go on the road this week at College Station. I bet it's more than $500,000.
Oh yeah, it's
right?
it's over $1 million.
$1.5 million. I mean,
they're usually like $1.2 million. I feel like right in between that.
And so you have it's more incentive to add one of these FCS games. I hate them, but it's more incentive to add one of these FCS games because you don't have to pay them as much and you're getting the same result.
Well, if you notice, most of these FCS games are driving distance. They're not flying. They're saving on travel that way. If you're going to do it, I always say play a team in your state at least.
Yeah.
You know, A&M played Sam Houston State. Well, that's a quick drive to A&M. Tennessee's going to host UT Martin. That's a longer drive, but at least it's in-state money when you're exchanging money for that. But yeah, I was noticing that because Nebraska played North Dakota, who is FCS this past weekend, and it's like a 7-hour drive from Lincoln to wherever the school was in North Dakota. And I'm thinking that might be the rare flight, to a game for an FCS team because most of these they're just driving. They're bussing over.
I hate learning that it's cheaper. So you're paying less for an even more guaranteed win, though they all should amount to a guaranteed win.
And a guaranteed
little
home
risk,
game.
Guaranteed home game. So friggin' pay a little bit more and get somebody with more stripes.
I just want better matchups.
Still isn't many stripes.
I realize you have App State on the road at Michigan for the debut of the Big Ten Network, and that happens. But I'll trade those games if we get better consistency week to week across the college football slate. That's what I want. It's good ball.
Better
OutKick 360 continues to Brent Hubbs. Next, we'll preview Tennessee and Pitt. Just like that, the final hour is here on this Wednesday edition. In 20 minutes, we've got 10 big questions going into the NFL season, which will kick off tomorrow night in Los Angeles as the Rams host the Bills to get us going in week one of the NFL. Week one of college football concluded a few days ago, and that included Tennessee with a relatively easy win over Ball State, what we expected. But it sets up a top 25 matchup this week between Tennessee and Pitt. And Brent Hubbs joins us on OutKick 360 to preview the week ahead for Tennessee and the matchup against Pitt, which is a rematch from last year at Neyland, where Tennessee fell in what was a great game to watch. I don't know if they enjoy reliving it all that much. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hope you guys are doing well.
Absolutely. Your initial thoughts on the Pitt Panthers week. We've discussed this as being a pivot point for the season. Now that you've seen Tennessee play and you know how they matched up last year, new quarterback, but we've certainly seen Pitt play as well. What do you think about the matchup initially?
Oh, I think it's intriguing. I'm a little surprised the line moved in Tennessee's favor, to be honest with you, from 4 to a touchdown. I don't know what Vegas knows. Generally, they know more than the rest of us. I know Pitt's dealing with an injury at running back and an injury at right tackle, so maybe that's something that factored in there. But I think it's a really intriguing matchup between a couple of coaches who know each other really well, conflict in styles in terms of what Pat Narduzzi wants to do versus what Josh Heupel wants to do. I always think those make for compelling matchups. And you look back at last year's game, a lot of self-inflicted wounds by Tennessee. And I'm not taking anything away from Kenny Pickett and Pitt. Look, they put 27 points on the board in the second quarter and turned that into a total different game. Tennessee looked like they were on the verge of blowing Pitt out in Neyland Stadium. But Tennessee had 13 penalties for over 100 yards in that game. They dealt with a massive load of injuries. Cade Mays got hurt in that game. Obviously, Joe Milton, they made the quarterback switch there. They lost Jabari Small in that game. There was no Byron Young in that game. Jalen Hyatt got hurt in that game. So there's some factors in that game that did not factor in a year ago who will factor in on Saturday. Lots of similarities. Pitt's not a lot different than they were a year ago, other than obviously at the quarterback position. So Pitt's going to do what Pitt does. Tennessee's going to do what it does. Depends on. It'll be interesting to see whose style wins out on Saturday.
Well, it's going to be the first real test for Tennessee's defense to see if they've improved from last season. What's the biggest prove-it guy in this game for Tennessee? Or maybe even it's a position group going up against Pitt in this game. We know the offense can score for Tennessee, but who do you want to see step it up in this game against Pitt on defense?
Two guys jump out to me. One, Byron Young, because I didn't think he was I just thought he was okay at best against Ball State. And I know Ball State threw the ball and got it out of their hands quickly and all those things. But I thought he would be a little more active than he was in week one. So I think this is an important game. You know, obviously Tennessee needs him to show up and get after the quarterback. Pitt gave up 5 sacks a week ago. Can Tennessee get there? So I would say Byron Young and those edge guys. You can throw Tyler Barron into that factor as well. And then I think the other guy is Warren Burrell. Because if you go back and look at PFF stats from last year and you go look and rewatch games last year, teams went after Warren Burrell. They went after him, attacked him. He was the target. He was the guy they picked on. That's clearly the guy in the scouting report that said throw it up to against number 4 and see what happens. He was most targeted by Ball State. Ball State went after him more than they went after Christian Charles, and Christian Charles was making his first career start at corner. So I think Warren Burrell is going to get tested early in this game. Curious to see how he responds. If he doesn't respond well, curious to see what Tennessee does. Do they go Kamal Hadden early in this game against Pitt? I thought Hadden played well, but we'll see what happens there. So I think Warren Burrell is going to get targeted early. We'll see how he responds to it. And then defensively up front, can they get to the quarterback off the edge without having to bring the house?
Did Josh Heupel or any of the Vols react to what Narduzzi said about, playing the big boys now and his kind of pep talk for his own guys through the media?
Nah, they didn't get caught up in that stuff. That's not Josh Heupel's style. Tennessee's excited to play this game, and Tennessee sees this. Somebody asked me earlier today, is this a revenge game? It's a different team. There's a lot of different guys in play here. A lot of the same guys, but there's some different guys in play for Tennessee. I don't see this as a revenge game. I think Tennessee sees this as a statement game. Look, they're on ABC on national television at 3:30. Tennessee's ranked. Pitt's ranked. Tennessee's a favorite on the road. A lot of people think Tennessee's on the coming up, that they're moving in the right direction. If that's the case, then Tennessee's got to go out and prove it. And I think that's Josh Heupel's message to his team is here's the opportunity to go make a bit of a statement. Can we make that statement? Are we ready to go make that statement? And we'll see if Tennessee can do that on Saturday.
The ebbs and flows of the game, Pitt has done a good job in recent memory of corralling that. They're able to bounce back in a big moment. Chad, we were discussing earlier this week about close games. But Tennessee had one close win last year.
1-3, I'd say.
1-3 in close games
last year, yeah.
Yeah, that's another element of this, Brent, that we haven't seen from Hendon Hooker and this regime is the close wins at the end. Pitt would certainly fall in that category last year in week 2.
Yeah, I think that's the byproduct of an established head coach who's been there for a while and his culture's in place. I asked Philip Fulmer one time, how do you get over the hump and win close games? This was after he was done as head coach. Because we were talking about Butch Jones. Butch Jones had been there with some close games, and they hadn't been able to close them out, whether it was Oklahoma or Florida or whoever. And I asked him, I said, what's the key to success to closing out a game? And he said, you know what? You get in enough close ones, eventually you knock the wall down and you kind of figure it out. But there is no magic formula. I think if you go back and look at Pat Narduzzi early in his career, they had some ACC games where they had Clemson on the rope, and they had some other teams that they had a chance to knock out and get it done, and they came up short because they didn't know how to finish. And so I think the question is, has Tennessee learned that? Can this veteran group finish a close game? We'll find out. You would love for there to be a magic formula on how to do that, but there's certainly not the case. I mean, a lot of people are giving Billy Napier in Florida credit, right, for winning a close game. And they did. It's a great drive they had to take the lead. But really, they didn't close it out. When you look at what happened in that last drive, they got helped with the closeout because the quarterback decided to throw it into triple coverage when he had 2 downs left inside the 5-yard line, which bailed the Florida defense out. I'm not saying that Utah should have scored. I'm saying the Utah quarterback gave Florida a gift by throwing it into traffic the way that he did. And they Florida let Utah drive the length of the field. So, it's a process. I don't know when it hits. I don't know how it hits, but there's a moment where you figure out how to win close games like that. And we'll see if Tennessee's ready for that if this is a close game in the fourth quarter.
What do you expect from Tennessee's running backs in this game? It seems with the Narduzzi defense, they are very much, we're going to stop the running back run game going into it, which could lead to some shots down the field for Tennessee, but specifically running back rotation, what do you expect to see from these guys on Saturday?
Well, Chad, you asked a great question. I think when you look at Pitt in the backyard brawl, what jumps out at you, there's two stats to me that jumps out. One, they gave up 5 sacks, which surprises me. I didn't see that coming from West Virginia's defense. And then on the flip side of that, Pitt's defense gave up over 5 yards a carry to West Virginia's running backs. West Virginia ran for 190 yards against a Pat Narduzzi defense, which is like, red flag, caution light, beep, beep, what's going on there? Why did that happen? If Tennessee can find that kind of success, I think Tennessee's got a shot at a great day because you're going to have to commit extra people to the box, which is going to set up those shots, as you mentioned. Pitt's going to play man coverage on the outside on a pretty regular basis anyway, so there'll be some shot opportunities. But can Tennessee effectively run the football against Pitt the way West Virginia did? This is going to be Jabari Small. This is going to be Jalen Wright. We'll see where the trust factor is with Dylan Sampson, maybe some specialty stuff for him, but I don't know that he's going to be a guy that's going to get 10, 12 carries in this game. I think it's going to be Small and Wright. I think Small's very much looking forward to this opportunity because he didn't get to play in this game very much last year because he got hurt, and he's got the extra 15 pounds. I think he wants to show that he can physically handle the big boys, as Pat Narduzzi likes to call them, with his defensive front. So we'll see. But if Tennessee can find any running success like West Virginia had, boy, I like Tennessee's chances Saturday.
We are previewing Tennessee and Pitt, a top 25 matchup this weekend with Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com. Chad's got Brew McCoy and his coming out party this weekend. He says this is the game built for Brew McCoy with the physical tone that will be on the outside there in man coverage. Do you agree?
Well, Chad must have watched the Rocky Top Roundtable this morning.
Hey.
I'm glad I prepped you along, Chad. Good job.
I'm a big fan,
you and I are on the same page, Chad. I know you didn't take that from me, but I agree with you. I think this is a big time opportunity game for Brew McCoy here. I liked what I saw out of Brew last week. I thought that he handled himself well. He didn't look lost. Josh Heupel kind of confirmed that he didn't have any real mental bust in this game. Guy who can snatch the ball out of the air. I think he's physical, but he's got a little more wiggle than people give him credit for. I think Pitt better be careful not to sleep on Brew McCoy, because I think that this could be a big-time step-out game for Brew McCoy, because I think Pitt's going to put a lot of attention on Cedric Tillman, probably roll your safety over to help over on that side a little bit. Then you got to worry about Jalen Hyatt down the middle of the field, which might leave McCoy in some true isolated one-on-one situations. And I can tell you, Hendon Hooker has a lot of trust in that scenario with the Southern Cal transfer. So I think McCoy could have a big afternoon.
Well, you said something there, Brent, that was going to lead to my next question. Do you think McCoy and Hyatt combined can be good enough where teams are unable to put extra attention on Cedric Tillman as the season goes on?
Well, and I think you got to throw in Josh Heupel in that equation and his ability to scheme guys open. Okay? I mean, you got Jalen Hyatt who can run. You got McCoy who's got size and he can run. Josh Heupel's all about speed, right? And you go back, how many times a year ago did they have somebody running free that was opposite of Cedric Tillman? I mean, go to the Kentucky game, right? That's how they started that game, basically on 3 straight offensive plays to get guys open. So to answer your question, I do think McCoy is good enough. I think Hyatt is in a great place if he can stay healthy right now to be good enough. And I think the combination of those two with the schematics of Josh Heupel will make it hard to truly blanket double team Cedric Tillman, because if they do and roll that safety coverage that much that way, then that leaves Josh Heupel a lot of green grass to play with 2 receivers and some of his scheme stuff and switch routes and rubs and different things like that to get people open.
You anticipate the atmosphere stays as charged as it was last week, or is that impossible considering the rivalry with West Virginia?
I don't think that the Pittsburgh people will be as charged up as West Virginia. I mean, all you got to do is get on social media. Well, we had people lose their jobs, get suspended from radio shows, lose endorsements because of profanities they screamed at their rivals. So I don't think people, if you don't know anybody from West Virginia or Pitt, you don't truly understand the significance of how much distaste they have for each other. They really don't like each other at all. They had that game circled for years to renew that rivalry. So I don't think it'll be that intense, Paul. I do think there'll be a good crowd there, but I don't think it'll be anything like what we saw a week ago between those two teams, because those two fan bases absolutely have zero use for each other at all. I mean, none.
Do you expect a lot of Tennessee fans to make the trip to Pittsburgh?
I do. I think that there'll be a good number to make that trip. You know, the Pirates are in town on Friday night. You're going to an NFL stadium. I think tickets have been you've been able to buy tickets through Ticketmaster in Pittsburgh as well as whatever Tennessee's had available. So I think there's been the availability to get tickets. Tennessee fans are excited about this team. They love a good road trip. Nobody's been to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going to honor Johnny Majors. I think they're unveiling a statue on campus of Johnny Majors. That they see this as a big recognition weekend for their former coach, who also happens to be a Tennessee legend. So I do think you'll see a good number of Tennessee fans there, compared to some other road games through the years. I think Tennessee fans like to go to new places. They really like to go to new places when they think their football team's pretty good.
Brent, I know have you called a game in that stadium?
No, but I've talked to some people who have,
okay,
and I understand my viewpoint is not
not
going to be a great vantage point. So
you're in a corner if you're in our booth or the Titans booth.
That's what I understand. I don't know if it's as bad as Auburn, because Auburn, you're in the end zone and low, but I don't think it's a great vantage point. So it'll certainly be a challenge to call the game from there, from what I understand.
Not ideal. This has been my soapbox issue, and it's not a major issue because they've had success with the offense, but I'm prefacing that realizing I'm probably harped on it too much. But I picked up on this last year when Tennessee played Pitt. I felt like Tennessee could win that game if they just ran some clock. instead of giving it back to Kenny Pickett a couple of times. And I'm interested if it gets to that where it's make it, take it, or whatever it ends up being in a fast-paced offense from both sides, because the defense can't stop either one. I wonder if Heupel's willing to slow it down a bit and use the clock to his advantage if he has a lead.
I think he will if he has a lead and they can successfully run the football. Part of the issue last year, when you go back and look at that game, with Jabari Small being out of the game, Jalen Wright was the running back, and Jalen Wright had basically never been on the field before. He had just a handful of carries against Bowling Green, and Tennessee rushed for, I think, 130 yards, 136 yards, something like that. I think 50 of them came from Hendon Hooker, a lot of it on scrambles. I don't know how comfortable Tennessee was with their running game at that point. I think that run game got better throughout the year. One of the things that stood out to me in the Ball State game, and it's not the end of the world, it doesn't matter, Tennessee had a long drive in the third quarter in that game that chewed up a bunch of clock, and they kind of just ran it. Now, they had the big lead. They're running out the clock. I get it. But, Ball State was continuing to drop 8 in coverage and had a 3 or 4 man front at best. And Tennessee elected to run the football. They kind of took what was given there. I do think if they can get in a lead situation, I'm not saying they're going to shut it down and not take chances, but maybe they do run the football a little more effectively and they extend the game or slow the game down. They're always going to play with some version of tempo, don't get me wrong, but I think if they're more comfortable with their run game than they were a year ago against Pitt, you may see that different in the second half this year compared to a season ago in that matchup.
Guys, if Tennessee wins and Florida beats Kentucky, September 24th, there's always, the next Tennessee-Florida matchup, but man, that's going to be something to behold.
Could be too. I mean, Florida certainly would be top 10, top 15. Tennessee could be top 15 at that point too. It could be 2 top 15 teams going head-to-head in that game.
What'd you think of Florida? What'd you think of Florida, Brent?
I like the 2 things. One, Anthony Richardson's always had talent, and there's no question about that. Is can you harness that talent? I still think the way to beat Anthony Richardson in Florida is to make him throw it consistently. That's easier said than done because he's obviously very good with his legs. The one thing you knew about Florida, they're not as deep as they want to be. They don't have some of the skill guys they've had in the past. They have some shortcomings, but they're still athletic and they still have talent down there. You knew they were going to play hard for Billy Napier because that team absolutely laid down and quit on Dan Mullen last year. I mean, I don't know that we've seen a team in this league tank it as bad as that team tanked it on their head coach a season ago. They were done with him. He was done with them. And that was a miserable experience for that team the back half of that season. So you knew there was going to be some renewed energy in the Florida program. And I thought that showed up. I thought they played extremely hard on Saturday. They were far from perfect, but their crowd was with them, and they played with a ton of energy. I would expect they'll have a ton of energy this week. I like them in this matchup against Kentucky, given where Kentucky is at running back and what we saw out of Kentucky's offensive line against Miami of Ohio. I think Florida is going to be unbeaten when they come to Knoxville. I think they'll be ranked in the top 10. The question is going to be, does Tennessee uphold their end of the bargain on Saturday and set up for a marquee matchup that's going to get a lot of national attention? That's certainly what Danny White and all the Tennessee fans are hoping for and Josh Heupel's hoping for, and I think that's what a lot of college football people are hoping for as well.
Don't sleep on Akron, Brent. Let's not forget about Akron, though, in between.
The Zips.
Yep.
The Zips, right? I don't know. Who does Florida have after Kentucky, right?
It's like South Florida.
South Florida, I think.
Yeah. Let's sleep on the Zips and South Florida.
And the Bulls.
3-0 against 3-0. The tentpole moment, though, of the schedule for Tennessee happens this Saturday. It was the first one we pointed to. When the rematch against Pitt and signifying, hey, are they 7-5? Or are they getting to 9? Are they climbing to 10? Some people say this is one of those games you've got to have to do that. Brent, great coverage as always.
Site looks great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thanks,
with the partnership there with On3. And we'll catch up soon. Enjoy Pittsburgh.
All right, sounds good, man. I'm looking forward to it. And you guys have a great rest of the week and have a great weekend. It's fun to talk a little college football, isn't it?
Oh,
love it.
Always.
Thanks,
Brent.
There's Brent
Thanks, guys.
VolQuest.com, well worth the price of admission there to go get some great college football content.
It's
SEC coverage, Tennessee, top to bottom.
First year's $1 is the special right now.
Right now.
Yep, for membership.
Coming up, 10 big questions as we head into the NFL season. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. Why would you stay in a stadium that the Parks Department runs? You don't even run the stadium if you're the Chicago Bear. You don't even run it. You have nothing to do with the stadium. They renovated it. Everybody acts like they renovated Soldier Field 10 minutes ago. It was 2002. They made it look like a spaceship. I don't know about you, but there's been a lot in this world with NFL teams that has been done since 2002. Children, please. 2002 was 20 years ago. 20 years is a lifetime in facilities renovation. Who the hell wants to live in that city, or at least who in the hell wants to own a franchise on the south side of that city?
Jacob deGrom, I've played with two of the greatest ever. Randy Johnson in Arizona. Roger Clemens won back-to-back Cy Young Awards, 96, 97, and 98 when I was with the Blue Jays. I've seen them all. Jacob deGrom, in my opinion, when he's healthy, Dan, is the best pitcher I've seen in person. He's so good, Dan. I watched so many baseball games that 3 years ago I wanted to see for myself. So I went on Vivid Seats, bought a ticket for myself, sat 2 rows behind home plate because I wanted to see, because I know what Clemens looks like. I've seen Saberhagen throw. I've seen them all. Dan, he is the best pitcher I have ever seen. I have never seen a guy that throws 98 to 100 with less effort than he does. It is smooth. It's under control. He has a nasty slider that comes out of what makes him so good, Dan. Everything comes out of this plane here, and one goes straight and the other breaks down, and you have a split second to decide which one.
Join me 9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy, and if you missed my last show, you may be experiencing some FOMO, so this is what you missed.
They get the mullet, but they're not living the lifestyle. They'll come. I'll see them come join the group, and I'm an admin in the big mullet group on Facebook, the mullet that changed my life, and they'll come in there and they're just bully people, and that's not something that we stand for. So we get rid of them as soon as they come in usually.
I would be willing to bet at least 50% of them work at the Frothy Monkey in Nashville, Tennessee, because I've seen a lot of liberal mullets there, and you're exactly right. It is not the mullet lifestyle. It's just a weird haircut with a lot of different colors and females with unshaved legs, armpits, that kind of thing. That's not the mullet lifestyle. The mullet lifestyle is clean. It's America first. We love our country. We love God. We love Tennessee, all those things. It was the last week of August, and the losers were out in full force. So let's get started with loser number 1, Lizzo. Not only did she dress like a literal trash bag on the VMA red carpet, but after winning an award under the category Video for Good, she delivered an expletive-ridden acceptance speech proving you can take the girl out of the trash bag, but you can't take the trash bag out of the girl.
To the bitches that got something to say about me in the press, gonna say nothing. They be like, Lizzo, why don't you clap back? Why don't you clap back? Because, bitch, I'm winning, ho. Big bitch is winning, ho! That's what bitches show people, bitch! So,
Nothing exemplifies a Video for Good victor quite like calling people bitches and hoes, am I right? I've got more hot takes every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and I'll have some final thoughts at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on OutKick.com.
OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our location. Nashville, Tennessee. Yeehaw Beer, Old Smoky Moonshine. 10 big questions as we head into the NFL season. Guys, it kicks off tomorrow in Los Angeles, Rams and Bills. And they would not qualify for our first question here. Which new starting quarterback has the best chance to win his division?
I will start, and I'm going to go with the team I almost picked to win the AFC South, the Colts and Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is in a position where they're going to contend for the AFC South. Give me Matt Ryan as the guy who could win the division.
I also say Matt Ryan. I think they're closest to being able to win. Baker Mayfield, no. I don't think that Russell Wilson and Denver are getting to the playoffs or the top of that division. 49ers are going to dip, though I think they're a playoff team. And the Steelers are third place at best to me.
I think Trey Lance has the best roster around him of the new quarterbacks, excuse me. So I have Matt Ryan as well. Best chance. They're number 2 at worst as we predict the season, which is so unpredictable. I get it. I would go Matt Ryan, but I think Trey Lance is right there behind him.
I picked the 49ers to win the division. I just wasn't even factoring in Trey Lance because he started a few games last year.
Technically, the new starter, though, so you change it?
If we're factoring Trey Lance in, then I'm going with the team that I picked to win the division.
So we got off a unanimity.
So
That's good.
I'll change it. I'll go Trey Lance.
Which new head coach has the best record at the end of the season?
Kevin O'Connell.
Because
they're going to finish second place in that division, and second place in a division in the NFC is not a bad place to be.
This was a very
Todd Bowles should have been my answer.
This was the very easy answer for me. It's Todd Bowles. That's right away. That's what jumped out.
It's Dennis Allen or Todd Bowles is what I'm thinking here, because again, the Saints rosters is really good. I don't know what to expect from Jameis Winston week to week. I think he is what he is. Extremely streaky. 5 touchdown passes one week, 5 interceptions the next, on 5 consecutive passes in that same game. Like, it just 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions come bubbles to the top for me whenever I think of the Saints at quarterback.
I'll change mine to first-time head coach. I made a mistake there, obviously, because the Vikings in second place are not going to win more games than the Bucs in first place.
Well, so here are the new head coaches. We have several of them. So you've got Lovie Smith in Houston, Matt Eberflus in Chicago.
No.
Doug Peterson in Jacksonville.
No.
Brian Dable in New York with the Giants.
No.
Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings. Mike McDaniel in Miami.
Maybe.
Nathaniel Hackett in Denver.
Conceivable, according to a lot of people, not me.
Dennis Allen in New Orleans.
Not for me.
Todd Bowles in Tampa, and Josh McDaniels in Vegas.
I mean, once you get past the first 2 names on that, I'll go to 3 or 4
Nathaniel
names.
Hackett, did you say?
Yeah.
Yep.
You get into a lot of good candidates that could have a really good season.
McDaniels is interesting because I think
there's a lot of faith in him to have turned it around in his second time.
Yeah, so he hasn't been a head coach for 10 years, and he has been very precise and methodical about the jobs he's interviewed for, the ones he would even consider.
He screwed over the Colts
in
the middle there.
Yeah, he did. He also, he had the chance to interview for the job in Jacksonville and coach Trevor Lawrence and said, I'm not going to waste your time. No. And he's turned down other opportunities over the decade. He was offensive play caller in New England. Point being, money talks, but so does the situation he chose in Vegas. So I think people would be stunned if they won the division. But I'm thinking of the big shockers. I think we're overlooking the Raiders a bit. I know you guys had them in the postseason, but I feel like the entire offseason I've overlooked them as a team that's there on the horizon but not within
the
view.
Raiders?
Yeah.
I've got the Raiders in the playoffs.
I don't like their depth. I have them in the playoffs too, though.
Which player not named Derrick Henry is your favorite to win NFL Comeback Player of the Year?
Christian McCaffrey. I think this is the big if with him now. It's about him staying healthy.
Sure.
But that's to me, he's the guy. If he is available to play, he's going to run away with this award.
And I don't know if you're going there, Paul, but let's stick on McCaffrey briefly. If he stays healthy, the Panthers are in the postseason, in my opinion. Like,
really?
Bad quarterbacks are made to look good with him.
I don't think there's any chance he stays healthy. I think he maxes out at 10 or 11 games.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's good for 12 games a year on average, right? And, again, I go back to last year. The Panthers were 3-0 when he was healthy to start the season. Sam Darnold and Matt Rule were a great pair at 3-0. And then he goes out, and then it just hit the fan.
So is he your answer?
No.
Who's your answer?
Michael Thomas in New Orleans.
Yeah. I wrote down 2 names.
Years, and I have a ton of faith that he's back and ready to roll.
I wrote down 2 names. I wrote down Michael Thomas and I wrote down Chase Young. But Chase Young apparently has suffered a setback in his comeback or
2023
something new.
Comeback.
So put him down for 2023.
Yeah, so he was on PUP. And
then I saw a tweet today that said the report is true. Chase Young is out for a significant amount or something like that. Which is a big setback for the Commanders.
By the way, the favorite in Vegas right now for comeback player of the year is Jameis Winston.
Is it? I looked up odds. I didn't look on an app or anything, but I just searched for odds, and it gave me Derrick Henry as the favorite, which he should be.
Most overrated offseason storyline is?
The whole drama surrounding Aaron Rodgers. Pick any of it. Blue of Earth, him doing psychedelics. X's, vaccination status, Joe Rogan interviews, the whole looking like Nick Cage and Con Air, like just anything about Aaron Rodgers. I say it's overblown. It's entertaining to follow Aaron Rodgers and everything going on, but it's not going to matter at all once they start playing. He's going to be just fine. I feel like he's going to have a really good year. I've got them winning the Super Bowl this year. But for that reason, I think everything this offseason is overblown.
I'm saying Russell Wilson because I don't think Denver's going to be substantially better. I think the Vic Fangio loss of what he does on defense and the competition in the division makes them a 500-ish team, you have to say now, because there's no such thing as 8-8. But I don't think they're going to be that big a factor in the stacked AFC.
So,
not that that's not a big acquisition or anything, but it's not going to turn out to be AFC altering.
So I'm buying into one element of the offseason storyline, but I think we focused on the wrong part of it. I'm pointing to Tom Brady in Tampa and his 11-day absence. I don't think it plays a factor in his overall play or his command of the locker room or what can be expected of a Brady-led offense. However, the element that we've overlooked as a just sports fan group is the offensive line issues. I think that plays so much more of a factor than anything involving him and his family and whatever he's doing on his own time and whatever he's doing outside of the facility. I do think he views the football as an escape, and he didn't want to retire and then comes back 40 days later and the whole Arians thing. I think that's been overblown. The offensive line issues will be the downfall if they have one. And it'll be the reason why the Saints can win the division.
I agree.
What or who will be the biggest surprise of the 2022 season?
I'll start. I think it's Philly. I've got them winning the division, but I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC all season long. And the talk of that division is the Cowboys, seemingly always the Cowboys. Give me Philly in that division, and I think, Paul, they're going to be a story we're going to be following all year because they're going to over-deliver on preseason expectations.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I have trouble with the Jalen Hurts part because I think he's unconventional. I don't think he's going to throw it nearly as well as I'd like for him to throw it. But I think the division shapes up in nice shape for them. I'm all in on the Chargers, so I'm going to have a Chargers thing. I think the Chargers are going to be a big surprise. I think the Chargers defensively are going to be a big surprise. I'm going here to look where the Chargers ranked on defense last year, and I'm having trouble finding it. 23rd
they're really
in
bad
yards given up.
Yeah, they're bad against the run.
360. And against the run, rushing yards per game. Baltimore gave up 84.5. Still, as bad as Baltimore's season was, and the Chargers way down here gave up 138.9, third worst in the league. They're going to be substantially better at that.
Well, their season ended because they couldn't stop a simple run play in the final game of the season, and they beefed up the middle of their defense for that reason.
Only Houston and Pittsburgh were worse, but it shows you can get in with the bad run defense because Pittsburgh was there as the 7th seed.
So I'm going surprise being they're picking this team. I think the majority of people think that this team will have success, and it's not. I'm not putting them in the disappointment category later. Biggest surprise of the 2022 season will be how much New England struggles, given the fact that Josh McDaniels is not there, and how they have formed this group of I don't know what they're doing. And Mac Jones in year 2 compared to I always point that in November of last year, we were comparing that New England team to Brady's first Super Bowl team. And Mac Jones was this heir apparent. And now it's, who's calling plays and are they really changing their run scheme? And I saw frustration at the end of the preseason, and I think it's a struggle for the Patriots in a surprising way that we weren't expecting.
I'm with you. I feel like I've done this before, though, where I talk myself into believing that the Patriots are going to be a disaster in some way under Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And Belichick seems to always figure it out. I don't see it with this team. I think they're going to be really bad.
So who will be the biggest disappointment of the 2022 season?
Well, I put the Patriots down in that category, but we just covered it, so I'll go elsewhere. I'll go to Justin Fields. I'm not a Justin Fields guy. And I think that he's just set up for disaster in Chicago. I don't think the weaponry is horrible. That team picked up, 6 people off of waivers, which tells you what they feel about at least the very bottom of their roster. They've got a defensive coach. I don't think he's set up for much success, and I didn't love him even if he was set up for much success. But meanwhile, his contemporaries around the league are getting receivers and offensive linemen and all kinds of Christmas presents, and Justin Fields got a lollipop.
I mean, I'll double down on this because Paul's got this team winning the Super Bowl, and I don't even have them in the playoffs. It's the Chargers. Based on expectation, I think they're one of the 2 teams out in the AFC West, and they don't even make the playoffs this year. I also gave a lot of thought to the Cowboys being bad.
I wanted the Cowboys not to be in the playoffs, but it's hard in the NFC to not have them in there.
But I have them in the playoffs, so I can't put them down.
Oh, so yeah, I see what you're saying because you're trying to.
I thought about it, but
you're forming your opinion based on the predictions from last week when we turned.
Well,
them
and
in.
also, I mean, it's the Cowboys, so anything they do is going to be big. Yeah. And if it's a big flop, it's going to be bigger than anyone else's
flop in the playoffs.
Yeah,
like they always do.
Biggest disappointment is Carson Wentz. That's what I'm thinking of. I think the Commanders are going to be really bad, and they were just a 500-ish team. I think they're bottom of the basement.
I think they're bad too, but I think he'll actually be, a decent quarterback for a bad team.
Oh,
I drafted him as a backup in one league.
Now basing this off of the offseason, they've upgraded at quarterback. And, their defense underwhelmed a year ago when we thought they were going to be great.
And now Chase Young's
and the off-season storyline there with the organization and Ron Rivera, really, I don't think it ends well. I think that organization ends up being the biggest disappointment based on the year they had last year and upgrading at quarterback. The rookie who will make the biggest impact, I went with Olave in New Orleans.
He's a good choice.
That's a popular pick, too, for Rookie of the Year.
Very big choice.
I think they spread it around. They've got a big arm QB that is going to do that with Thomas and Olave, and they'll throw it out of the backfield to Kamara. I think he is, of the rookie receivers, the one that is going to be the biggest fantasy boom. And for that, I'm pointing to him as the rookie favorite.
I'm going outside the box here. I'm going the guy who's not currently a starter for his team, Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's going to get in there by week 4. I think quickly this season, Mitch Trubisky will show himself to be a below-average NFL quarterback that he is, And Kenny Pickett will get his chance, and he is going to shine when he gets that opportunity.
I thought about George Karlaftis in Kansas City.
That's a good one,
who
too.
I think is going to be good.
Yeah.
But I'm going Dameon Pierce in Houston. I think he's going to get the bulk of the work in the backfield there. I think in order for Mills to have any chance, they're going to have to be a very balanced offense, or maybe run heavy. And fourth rounder out of Florida has won the job. Which is a hard thing to do as a rookie running back on a bad team. Would usually want a veteran to have that job, and I'm looking for him to be a guy they lean heavily on and who's going to impress, particularly on the fantasy thing, which always gets a guy a lot of attention.
No doubt, and that's how I thought about the question too. The coach who will make the biggest difference.
So I was going back and forth between two guys, Kevin O'Connell or Doug Peterson. I'm going to go with O'Connell because I've got the Vikings in the playoffs. So it's going to be more impactful for that. These are two guys, though, that are inheriting pretty toxic situations from their predecessor because things went south for Zimmer in Minnesota, and there's a lot of reports about how unhappy that entire building was. And we all know about Urban Meyer and the epic failure that was his Jacksonville Jaguars tenure. So I'm going Kevin O'Connell, slight edge over Doug Peterson.
What about you, Hut?
I wrote down Peterson, but I have one that I don't know if it qualifies, but I wrote down Peterson because I think the Jags will be vastly improved from the perception of how we view them today versus how we're going to view them in December. Not a playoff team, but they're a 6 or 7 win club, and that is a big jump from an organization that's had back-to-back number 1 overall selections.
I'm going against the grain, and I'm saying Zach Taylor, because I think most people are thinking Cincinnati's a one-shot deal, and they're going to go back to being, something closer to what they've always expected. And I think they're going to be really good again and be a factor in the AFC playoffs, and he's going to establish himself as a guy who's a legitimate, good coach with good talent who knows how to manage it.
So the asterisk here that I put down is Sean McDermott. I think
I wrote him down also.
I think he's the most underrated coach in football right now.
You do not hear a word about the guy.
When you think about Buffalo, he's 4th, 5th, 6th guy you think of if he's even that high. He's coached that team to playoff appearances for the last 5 years.
Steady as can be.
Yeah, and
he's like
he's
Mike
a difference
Vrabel
maker.
light.
Difference maker. Brady and Rodgers, they're in the offseason spotlight. Both stay with their team, so I paid Paul $100. Lost my bet.
Which initially I paid because Brady retired.
Yeah. Does either quarterback make the conference championship? Chad, I know your answer. The answer is yes.
Aaron Rodgers, yes, and I've got Aaron Rodgers winning the Super Bowl also.
I say no. I think this is the year where they flip the page to the new quarterback era
so
where
they're
not dominating in that way. I've got the Rams and Eagles in the NFC.
I think we didn't have to pick a championship game per se, so this question puts me on the spot for that. I think the Packers get there. I've got the Rams in the Super Bowl, so I think Aaron Rodgers loses a championship game to the Rams, probably at SoFi.
I'm ready for this new quarterback crop to just take over. And I think I'm not saying that they won't be good. I think it's Brady's last year, right? That's the vibe.
Presumably, yeah.
Rodgers, offensively, without Adams and not having some pieces right now, I just think it's slow out of the gate. I think they're better, but they're not nearly what they were a year ago come playoff time.
I think the Vikings, by the way, win on Sunday, and the Packers start 0-1, but they're going to go on and win the Super Bowl. That's my pick for this weekend.
Which wide receiver who switched teams has the biggest impact on their offense? Impact here, not stats, but
Sharp
helps them win games. Yes.
I don't even know if he changed teams.
Titans fans are going to hate to hear this, but it's A.J. Brown. That's the answer to me. And it's a part of my previous answer about Philly being a big surprise this year. I think A.J. Brown is going to be a star in Philly. I think that his mentality is going to have a big impact on that locker room and on that offense.
Yeah.
Give me A.J. Brown in Philly.
It's a good answer. I put down Devontae Adams because the firepower now of that Raiders offense with McDaniels and with Carr. I've always been slightly above the grain on Derek Carr, like Paul. I think Devontae Adams has the biggest impact on the go-to player for any team right now in football?
You should both be wrong, and it should be Tyreek Hill. But I can't get myself to say Tyreek Hill because I can't believe in Tua. I just can't. I don't care that he throws the nicest ball in the history of mankind because I think that ball's delivered in 10 yards or under, and he can only be so open with double coverage at 10 yards. So I'm going with Chad here, and that it's going to be A.J. Brown. And again, I'm going to blame the Cowboys for that.
Always blame the Cowboys. It's easy to do.
Imagine
and fun.
Imagine if it ends up being Julio.
What if it's going to be a tie between Julio and A.J. Brown?
Only because he's with Brady.
We had our OutKick 360 fantasy draft here the other day, and somebody took Julio Jones late, and the whole room turned and looked at her and went, "Oh, really?"
Oh. Hit us up on Twitter.
And Hutton said, "Watch, he'll light it up."
Watch it, yeah. If he's with Brady, he'll be the new Gronk, where
and away from the
you
Titans.
need a score. He's going to have one catch, one touchdown.
And away from the receiver needy Titan.
Right. Hit us up on Twitter with your thoughts at OutKick360. We wrap up the show and look ahead to tomorrow night's matchup with the Bills and Rams next.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look.
The new attention on the MAGA Republicans. You tweeted in
Oh, I knew
2016
this was
Trump
coming.
stole an election. You
I was
tweeted-
waiting, Peter, when you were going to ask me that question.
Well, great. Here we go. You tweeted Trump stole an election. You tweeted Brian Kemp stole an election. If denying election results is extreme now,
Yeah.
why wasn't
So
it then?
let's be really clear. That comparison that you made is just ridiculous. I have been. Well, you're asking me a question. Let me answer it.
And you said it was ridiculous.
I was talking specifically at that time of what was happening with voting rights and what was in danger of voting rights. That's what I was speaking to at the time.
Yeah, she's lying. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Look, you lied. Hey, my thoughts changed. What do you want me to do? I don't give a damn if she's in bed, literally, with CNN. I don't give a damn about any of it. Just tell the truth. You did. And now you're on the other side.
I really believe this is why God gave us two arms, one for the flu shot and the other one for the COVID shot.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. God gave us two arms because he said, look, there's going to be, out of Wuhan, a virus that is made in a lab that's going to spread, ironically enough, around election time through the United States. And I'm giving you two arms, not to eat, drink, function. I'm giving you two arms for a shot here and a shot there. That's what he did. How can you argue? It is literally, and I'm being literal here, impossible to argue with the stupidity we hear every day. Join me, 9 to 11 Eastern Time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy, and if you missed my last show, you may be experiencing some FOMO, so this is what you missed. But now, in an effort to further punish, stigmatize, and keep tabs on gun owners, New York City officials such as Mayor Eric Adams and Comptroller Brad Lander are pressuring credit card companies to create a system to trace gun and ammo purchases, even holding the city's government retirement investments over their head to do so. Now, they say this is all to prevent future mass shootings, which, first of all, now they're suddenly worried about violent crime. Weird. But secondly, that excuse is a load of crap. This is another strategy the government will use to not only shame and stigmatize gun owners, but look over our shoulders like Big Brother from hell. If I told you a few years ago the government would start pressuring private companies to monitor and report your purchases, you'd call me a right-wing nut conspiracy theorist. Sure. Well, I'd rather be a conspiracy theorist with a knack for hitting the nail on the head than a mindless sheep who believes the government is my savior, my messiah, and my keeper. But oddly enough, young girls do look up to Lizzo. She is supposedly the poster child for body positivity, which is fine, except obesity, heart disease, and diabetes are all leading killers of Americans, but whatever, you do you, Lizzo. But there are a lot of things Lizzo is. Oppressed is not one of them.
I don't know what music video for good means, but I do know what your vote means, and that's a lot. Your vote means everything to me. It means everything to making a change in this country. So remember, when you're voting for your favorite artist, vote to change some of these laws that are oppressing us.
Is that what oppression looks like in America? Because if so, that's a very interesting definition, and I think truly oppressed and marginalized people from around the world would beg to differ. I've got more hot takes every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, and you know I'll have some final thoughts at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on OutKick.com.
Matchup tomorrow night between the Bills and Rams. It is an early test for a reshaped Buffalo offensive line. They've added Roger Saffold. They added Ryan Bates at guard. That's their guard tandem with Mitch Morse at center. Lining up and going head-to-head with Aaron Donald. That's a test right out of the gate.
I'm just really hoping the suite I'm in for the Backstreet Boys concert allows us to keep the TVs on. A lot of their concerts, the TVs will go off. You can't turn them on because of the lights.
When you got these tickets, there's no way that you realized it was opening night of football.
Well, for that reason, Paul, I wasn't going to go when I saw the date. And then my buddies who go every time they're in town were like, hey, Withrow, are you going to get us some tickets to this Backstreet Boys concert? I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I'm in.
Well, he's also going because he has a suite.
Yes.
That Simon would go. Not Simon. That's what Simon asked me when I asked him if he wants to go.
Pearl
Do we
Jam,
have a suite?
Pearl Jam next week.
Yeah, now that one, I'm
very
jealous
different acts. From Backstreet Boys to Pearl Jam.
My ticket guy told me to wait until day of.
Will you sing more?
I'm a fan of all music.
Will you sing along more to Backstreet Boys or Pearl Jam?
Oh, I'll sing along more to Backstreet Boys because the songs are more instantly recognizable.
Jam, you can't sing along with Pearl Jam. You mumble along.
There was a lot of at our fantasy draft last night. There was a lot of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC playing.
Yeah, that was we put that on to honor you.
Yeah, it was great. It was. I mean, it was catchy. Everyone knew all the songs.
No,
they knew it.
People were laughing at you, not singing. People were laughing at you, not singing with you.
It's fun.
They'll all be singing. They'll all be singing along this week, tomorrow night. Backstreet Boys.
It's time.
Bills Rams. Let's go.
What if I took the day off because I was preparing to go to Backstreet Boys? How would I be viewed on this show if I told you guys, I'm going to, like people who take their birthday off, Yeah. Guys, I'm going to take the day off. I just really need some time to prep for Backstreet Boys at Bridgestone Arena.
One more night, then the NFL returns.
I wonder if they're here already. The guys.
Maybe.
The band.
Boys, I got to admit, I'm running out of steam. My third fantasy draft in 3 nights tonight.
Yeah.
8:30 tonight. I can't wait. It'll be over.
Join us tomorrow, game day. Armando Salguero, Trey Wallace, and we'll preview Bills and Rams and get you ready for the NFL weekend on OutKick 360.
Do not block the box and kindly lock all of your locks.